start?
It certainly did. So as the formation lap gets underway, let's have a look at your starting grid for the Winton 300. On pole position for the first time, Stephen Jake Shelley, the Deputy.com Lotus. Position number 2, the Bright Print Group Genetta G50 of Adam and Craig Burgess. Position 3 on the grid, it's Trevin and John Spiteri in their Mitsubishi Evo, then Michael Hall and Daniel Deckers, the Hydro Wash Deck Speed MX5 out of position 4. Andrew Butcher and Lachlan McBrien will go from 5th position. Scott and Trevor McGuinness, not sure if that car is going to start out of 6th. Phil Showers and Nathan Gear in 7th. The best of the Division B cars, the mini challenge entry of Ian McDougall and Barney Hogan out of 8th position. Perry Anastakis and Matt Thewlis in 9th position on the grid. Daniel Reynolds and Matt Stubbs rounding out the top 10 in their BMW M3.
Just outside of the top 10 we've got Kansian and Hay, followed by Sewell and Townsend. Cars that we figure can go quicker. There in 11 and 12. Holland Murdoch the next two on the grid. Then it's Miller and Backus in position 14.
Back then to Lisa Montgomery and Daniel Gillison out of position number 15. The Motorsports Training Australian Ute of Jordan Boyes and Chelsea Angelo in 16th. Chris Coxhead and Thomas McCready in 17th position on the grid. The bests from Benalla, Alexandra Best, her brother Zach Best, their father Darren Best in 18th position. Wayne Williams, our operations manager here at Winton, and John McElroy in 19th on the grid. And then Kevin Stoopman, Andrew Williams and Gavin Ross, the Subaru WRX out of position 20.
And finally back to the back of the grid. Tanner and Johnson out of 21. Bryant and Lovett out of 22. Hawkins, Luff, Reynolds out of 23. Caperi, Rice, Collins, Hop, Sortwell, Bell, Reinhardt, and at the back of the grid is Wen and Davis.
Here we go. Anticipation building, lining up in side-by-side grid formation as they head down into turns 11 and 12, and the safety cars stayed out, so the officials are actually not happy with how the field's formed up, so they're going to send them around for another lap. So the anticipation was building, and the anticipation will continue to build for another lap.
CXC Global Evo has gone pit side. That's the car being shared by Sage Murdoch, and
Gavin Holland. Yeah,
that's gone pit side, so there's a drama for it on the opening lap by the look of it. Yeah, they were quite specific yesterday in the driver's briefing that they had to be all tight for the start, and if they weren't, they will continue around, and this is what's happened so far. These are not race laps either. Race starts at the green flag.
Correct, so the race has not started yet, so it's still with 100 laps. It'll be interesting to see if that Mitsubishi Evo can rejoin the circuit. I wonder if maybe they're just topping it up with fuel now that the race is going to basically go for an extra lap. Here it goes. Yeah, they're on their way back out of the pits again by the looks of it.
They have to wait there now until the race starts and resume at the back of the field. Gavin Holland, Sage Murdoch. Sage Murdoch, of course, has done the Australian Formula 4 Championship this year.
Possibly not a bad strategy. One of the things that we see is that the Mitsubishi Evos can be a bit marginal on fuel. Obviously, you have to get 50 laps out of the tank to be able to do the race on one stop. And we have seen in the past that the Evos have been very line ball. So because of the fact that we have had that aborted start, might have just made the decision to come in, top it up.
Dylan Thomas, of course, who's calling the strategies this weekend for that team, is pretty switched on as far as all that goes. Just a quick rundown of the manufacturers in this event. There's 5 Mazdas, 4 Mitsubishis. BMW have got 4, but there's a Mini there as well, so you could probably count that as a 5th one. Hyundai, Ford, Lotus and Holden with 2 each. And we've got Nissan, Subaru, Suzuki, Peugeot and the Genetta, 1 car each in this field. Now they've tightened up a fair bit on this one. They've learnt their lesson.
Yeah, this is looking a lot better now. So Shelley and Burgess side by side. It'll be Shelley on the left-hand side of the circuit, and we'll have the inside running for when they get to turn number 1. Burgess' car will be on the outside. How hard do you battle for track position early? What we often see in these endurance races is it's not about trying to win the race in the first 5 or 10 laps. It's about buying a ticket to the last 20 laps. That's when the real sprint race starts.
Be on the lead. Be leading on the last lap would be enough.
Well, that's what Nathan Jess and Matthew Thompson did in 2014. They only went 1 lap all day, and that was the last one. The safety car's in pit lane. The field is formed up in side-by-side formation. 100 laps, 300 kilometres around the nation's action track. The Michael J. Rock Memorial Trophy up for grabs at the end of what's going to be a hot day of action at Winton Motor Raceway. Green flag, and the 2017 Joss Group Winton 300 is underway. Shelley and Burgess, our two front row starters, side by side into turn one. Burgess hanging tough around the outside will put him on the inside for turn number two. They're still side by side, and that battle's still not going to be resolved when they get to turn number three. Eventually Burgess has the inside line, and Spiteri follows through on the inside as well to relegate our pole sitters to third.
Yeah, the problem with our two running first and third is that they can blow, whereas the car in second maybe not be able to, so they can go as hard as they like. And by the look of the way they're going early, that's what they intend to do. Further back in the field, we can see the Peugeot's got ahead of them, and you've got someone off out of turn four by the look of it.
Someone, running wide down there and kicking up some dust. Oh, and it's the Subaru WRX. That's the Gavin Ross, Kevin Stoopman and Andrew Williams car. And a bit of front-end damage to that car as well. Oh, and the Shane Tanner and Ben Johnston Nissan 370Z off and blowing smoke as well. Shane Tanner through Rap to Race, sponsoring Division A this weekend, but that's not an auspicious start for that car to be in dramas after less than a single lap of the Joss Group Winton 300.
So we can't see what happened there, whether they were involved in the same incident. We're not sure at this point. And if they don't get that Nissan going, we may have a safety car situation very early on.
It'll be interesting to see where that car's actually come to rest. If the officials decide that it's in a safe position, might not actually be any need for a safety car. One of the things here at Winton is because it's such an open circuit in terms of accessibility for the safety and the recovery crews, they can often do quite safely what we describe as hot track recoveries, where they can do it just under a local yellow flag without actually needing to go full course yellow with the safety car. Order after lap number one: Adam Burgess, your race leader, Trevor Spiteri second, then Jake Shelley third, Lachlan McBrien in fourth position, back to Nathan Gear in position number 5, followed by Daniel Deckers, Matt Hewless, Nick Cansey and Ian McDougall and Matt Stubbs, the top 10. And we saw there at the back of shop that the hot track recovery option is indeed what they're going to do with the Shane Tanner and Ben Johnston car.
That was always the aim. They were going to try and do that wherever they could to avoid a safety car, and fortunately looks like there may have been contact between it and the Andrew Williams car on the opening lap.
Yeah, the Andrew Williams car's just now made it back into the pits as well, so yeah, clearly a bit of damage to that car. Shelley applying the pressure to Spiteri. And lots of things for us to keep an eye on through this race. One of them is going to be the Division B cars, because we know that while they might not figure in the outright placings early on, because they are going to spend 5 less minutes in the pits, they will move up into contention once we get the pit stop cycle underway.
At the moment, Adam Burgess leads by 3.3 seconds, so he's doing 31.7s on that last lap, so that indicates that he's only 7/10 off. And here we see that Shelley obviously doesn't want to let that car get too far further away from him, and does go back into second position at turn 3, ahead of Spiteri, with Deckers in 4th and McBrien 5th. The BMW of Gear in 6th position, and Cansian has already moved up from 11th to 7th, so they've made some great progress in the early stages of this race in that BMW MX-5.
Yeah, so Cansian up 4 spots from 11th up to 7th, and critically he's got ahead of all of the Division B cars, so he's now up with the other Division A cars that are also going to have to make the 2 stops. Mason Montgomery on screen at the moment, car number 13, the Mazda MX-5. She's embroiled in battle with John McElroy in the Ford FG Falcon, and also Darren Best involved in that scrap as well.
Very different cars there. We've got a little sports car, a big V8 and a turbocharged car, 4-wheel drive of course behind them.
Here comes Cansey, and we know that car's very quick, and he'll be looking to try and make up positions. He's having overtaken Matt Hewless, he's now closed onto the back of Nathan Gear. So Cansey, the number 6 easy profile turbocharged Mazda MX-5, which won this race outright in Rob Hay back in 2013 on the attack. Looks to the inside of Nathan Gear at turn 1. Not quite close enough to make the move through. Fastest lap of the race for Jake Shelley, a minute 31.4 last time through.
Yeah, they're edging closer to that breakout point, which we don't want to see them do. Tulis in the Peugeots in 8th, followed by McDonald and Stubbs currently running in 10th position. They're our leading Class B cars from 8th. So the top 7 cars are all in Class A. So where is the 8th car? That's the McGuinness car that didn't make the start, obviously. So the seven are still there. So they're leading this race, and they'll have to be if they have any chance of winning this. They don't want to be coming from behind with an additional pit stop.
Also, we've got the Best Mitsubishi Evo, Darren Best, Alexandra Best, and Zach Best car into the pits after only 2 complete laps. So that car obviously with some sort of issue as well. And we've got the John McElroy car off the road as well. And we've also had the Subaru WRX, the Stupid Williams Ross car, rejoining the circuit. So that looks like just a fairly harmless off-track excursion for the FG Falcon.
Yeah, lots of dust, as you can see. Fairly dry out here today. As we see, the best car looks like it's done a front axle or something by the look of it.
Well, they broke the rear axle on Friday in practice.
Jacking up the front of the car, and it's a gearbox, maybe a gearbox issue. We'll be down in the pits, or Lachlan will be more specifically. Will give us a rundown on what everyone's doing as the race unfolds. Passing move there with Angelo going ahead of the Evo 9. That's Jordan Boys at the wheel of that car, just passes car number 20, which is Bacchus.
Richard Baskus. So that's, that Mitsubishi Evo, the Richard Baskus, Jason Miller car. I probably would have expected that car to be a bit further up. Jordan Boys has charged his way up a few spots as well in the Falcon Ute. Started out of 16th position and has got himself up to 12th.
And they've left the Johnson car where it is, apparently, by the look of it. Did try and hook it up, but then decided that perhaps not in a bad spot. And unfortunately, their race is done. So we've got one car that's has pitted early. We've got another that's not going anywhere now, and the third car, the Best Evo, in the pits, getting attention in the garage area.
Fastest lap for Adam Burgess last time through, a minute 31.3.
I think he'll be on the radio saying, I think enough's enough, stay where we are. 4.1 seconds in front.
And Matt Thewlis down on the inside of Nathan Gear as well. Thewlis gets the Peugeot up to 7th position. That little Peugeot 205 doing very nicely indeed, and Ian McDougall is not too far away either. They're the 2 best Division B cars at the moment, the Peugeot and the Mini. The 3rd best of the Division B cars, BMW E46, which is just there at the back of the shot as well, of Matt Stubbs.
The interesting point about that is that a Class B car has actually passed a Class A car, which means that the Gear car mustn't be performing as well as like it did a 35.7 on the last lap. We know it's capable of sub 34s, so now they're looking under the rear of this car as well. So they've lost it. They've had a drive issue by the feel of what we can see, with both ends jacked up and going under the car. So whether it's the centre diff or one of the axles or whatever, we don't know. They're just on your screen. Top 6 being shown. And Burgess leads Shelley by 4.1 seconds, with another 4.6 seconds back to Spiteri, and then follows Deckers, McBrien and Cansian in position 6. So Nick Cansian is the one that's been on the move, picked up a group of positions from 11 up to 6, and just going on their last lap times are actually about where they should be in the pecking order. The cars in front are just slightly quicker, although on that last lap, Spiteri was actually doing about the same times.
And both our leaders having to start negotiating laps. Traffic management's always one of the big talking points here at the Winton 300 because of the disparity in lap times that we see between the fastest and the slowest cars in the field. And you want to try and avoid being held up by lapped cars, but also on the part of the slower cars in the field as well. Bit of a responsibility there to not unnecessarily impede the faster cars.
Our race leader in Adam Burgess, coming through turn 8 up to turn 9, and obviously the weapon of choice for this, although it can quickly break out, we don't want that to happen this stage, so they'll be managing their laps as much as they possibly can and make sure that they don't go under 131 with one strike against them already from yesterday.
So keep in mind that the Division A cars are going to have to do an extra 5-minute pit stop compared to the Division B cars. 5 minutes is 300 seconds. 300 seconds over 100 laps equates to 3 seconds a lap that they need to be faster than the Division B cars to make up that extra 5 minutes that they're going to spend in pit lane, as Burgess goes faster again and Shelley breaks out 1:30.7 for the Deputy.com Lotus, so that car now gets its first official warning of the race meeting.
So both first and second are on one warning, 2 more and they're out of the event.
The ironic thing there is that Jake Shelley's actually broken the Winton 300 race lap record there as well, which was 1:31.1 set by Hayden Pullen back in 2011, but it's probably a lap record that Jake Shelley doesn't really want at the moment.
Adam Burgess done a 31.2 on the last lap, so he's not leaving much of a window either, is he? At this stage, as we see the McDougall BMW JCW car come through here.
This is the battle for second place in Division B. Leader of Division B at the moment is Matt Thewlis, who still sits in position 8 out right. And Matt Thewlis is doing pretty good lap times at the moment, just to keep himself at the front of Division B, but also keep the Division A cars close enough so that he can have a chance of making up that time on them.
Well,
once the pit stop side
actually, McDougall and Stubbs were very faster on the last lap, so they're actually closing.
So we could actually have a pretty handy contest for the lead.
There they go, the 3 leading Class B cars all in frame, Peugeot, Mini and BMW. And so that's an interesting fight. Class C at the moment being led by Coxhead, Class D is led by Bryan, and Class E by Rice in the Commodore, which would certainly well outside their cut-off period, 41:42. And actually some of the Class D cars are battling to get down to that 42 at this stage. But it is a long race. They're not overstretching the cars, or apart from our race leader, that is. You just noticed that both Burgess and Shelley have dropped down to 33s on the last lap. I think they've been warned by their crews that, guys, you want to see this race out, slow it down a little bit.
Trent Murphy, who's the team manager for the Deputy.com team, is the one who will be on the radio to Jake Shelley, and upon Jake Shelley breaking out, Trent Murphy would have been yelling at the radio on him, "Watch your speed." We don't need to be doing that anymore. So 3 cars now that have had one official warning at some stage over the course of the weekend. The Burgess car, the Shelley car, and also the Kansian car.
Well, effectively at this stage we have 24 runners still circulating. We don't know what will happen, whether the best entry will get back out, but not good if you're in pits at the end of the second lap.
Adam Burgess at 31.4, Jake Shelley at 33.1. We just have to wonder if that breakout's maybe affected Jake Shelley's confidence a bit. It's a real tightrope, isn't it, to walk between going fast enough but not going too fast.
Well, it's so easy to slip up and go under. Like a 31.4, I think, is dicing with death a little bit at the moment for Adam Burgess, who, with one strike, you don't want another one. If you have another one now, you would really button off. But it's interesting. Apart from Burgess, everyone else down to position 6 is doing mid 133s.
Nathan Gee just punched out that BMW's best lap of the race so far at a 32.8. I'm liking the Thewlis, McDougall and Stubb cars, which are all lapping right where they need to in the 34s as well.
Exactly. They're in a prime spot at the moment to assume the lead on the second pit stop for the Class A cars and go on with it.
Matt Thewlis is 30.2 seconds off the lead after 9 laps. So he's probably about 3 seconds shy of where he needs to be. Of course, it's never quite that straightforward because there'll be possible safety cars and traffic and the pit stops themselves, of course. But if we're looking at pure numbers, 3 seconds a lap at the moment. Adam Burgess is only just over 3 seconds a lap quicker than Thewlis, the best of the Division B cars.
Car 75.
Oh no, the Mini. One of our leading Division B contenders, Ian McDougall and Barney Hogan. That's between turns 8 and 9. That car has come to stop. And with that car in that position, that could well trigger a safety car interruption, because that's probably considered to be a hazardous position there. And that's a shame because they've done a great job in qualifying.
You know, it is in a precarious place. It's a place where a car can run off if they overstep out of 8. But that looks to me like a mechanical drama, and we got our first safety car.
Yeah, so we won't be going through the Winton 300 safety car free. Now, the key thing here is the pit window is not actually opened yet. We've just completed lap number 10. So still a couple of laps until the pit window opens. This gets a bit interesting here. How long is this safety car going to be out for? And will the pit window be open by the time, or will the safety car still be out, I should say, by the time the pit window opens?
And will you want to do one of your stops? I guess the Class A cars will want to get one of their fuel stops out of the way.
How unlucky as well for Gavin Holland, who had just been lapped by the Burgesses before that safety car comes out. Now the problem for him is he's going to get trapped. All of the other Division B cars that he would have been battling against are going to gain almost a lap advantage on him.
Yeah, that could have cruelled their chances. And the gamble to actually start from pit lane, for whatever reason they did that, has not worked.
So this will compress the field, obviously. And we have now completed lap 11, so the pit window
will open
at the end of this lap.
Now, if a Class A car comes in at the end of the next lap for fuel, will they have enough fuel to do the remainder of the race with just one stop?
I think so, yeah. So what have we done? 12 laps, so you've still got 88 to go, which means that provided you can get 44 laps out of a tank, I think most of the Division A cars can do it on 44 laps out of a tank.
Well, that swings the whole race back in their favour, doesn't it, effectively?
If they can do this stop under safety car, it absolutely does.
Yep. We wait and see as they go through, and the best car, good news there, it looks like it's back out and running. The family of Bests in that car, Alexandra and Zach, the sister and brother, and of course Darren, the dad. Been running around in production cars over, well, not so much for Zach this year, but certainly in past years he's been running production cars. Alexandra Best ran with Mick Gray, and I think they're still leading their class despite having a DNF down at Phillip Island back in September. But here's our race leader at the moment. It's Adam Burgess, and we wait to see now that the pit window should be open at the end of this lap, should it not? Should be open now.
Yep, so there's the recovery crews there, so they're getting ready to tow that Mini out of harm's way. Now, the interesting thing here is that this might be quite a short safety car, because I don't think it'll take too long. In fact, they're just waiting for a gap in the traffic to start towing that Mini out of harm's way. They're going to take the opportunity to retrieve the Shane Tanner and Ben Johnson car as well. So the thing is, if you pull into the pits and the safety car only goes for, say, one more lap, you might not actually get to complete your entire compulsory pit stop under safety car conditions. And what you will lose as well, of course, is track position. So they'll come back out if they do choose to come into the pits, obviously with no track position. So this is going to change the whole complexion of the race. We saw it in 2013 and 2014 as well, where we had a safety car pretty much coinciding with the start of the pit window. And Burgess stays out, Shelley stays out. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if that's because the pit window doesn't officially open until the leader actually...
Well,
they're showing pit open.
Yeah, pit window is open. But that's the start of this lap by the look of it. They're saying that. We've just finished it. We're coming up to finish the 12th lap.
So the leader has to actually complete the lap.
Yep.
It's a bit of a technicality. But, so they'll have to go for another lap. Now, say the race was to restart next time around.
They'll be stuck.
All of a sudden, this safety car is really bad news for the Division A cars because it wipes out all of the margin that they'd been able to extend over the Division B cars.
It's interesting, and just so you're aware of where we're at this stage, the top 12 cars have completed 12 laps. Therefore, anyone else below that, we'll make that 14 cars. The next lot of cars have only completed 11, so they can't actually pit until the following lap. Is that right?
Yeah, they can because the pit window opens.
It's on the leaders, right, so they're okay.
So 14 cars on the lead lap, yes.
Yeah. 14 cars on the lead lap. The first car off the lead lap is Gavin Holland, which we talked about when he just got past just prior to that safety car. John McIlvoy in the Falcon, Brian Reynolds, Bryce, Reinhardt, Sortwell, Davies, Williams, McDougall are all down a lap, while McDougall's effectively out of contention, as is this car, the Johnson Nissan.
One of the things in endurance racing, though, is that you should never give up. So,
well, it depends if they're allowed to bring the cars back into the garages.
Yeah,
well, that's
and work
okay
on
then.
them so they can get back out. So, with the McDougalls, if it's something relatively straightforward, they might still be able to get that car back into the race. You can see that there's lots of important decisions, and Steve Shelley looks like he's getting ready to either get in the car or assist with the fuel stop. So, if the safety car's still out, it looks like they're probably going to bring that car in.
So will that mean that the Burgess will follow suit, or will they stay out? Maybe might be a good move to stay out, given that if they can get these race conditions going again, they're just some of the technicalities for being in the pit stops. 40k speed limit, 4 crew plus a driver assistant as maximum, 1 trolley jack, no work while refueling, that's naturally enough, driver out of car for refueling as well, all fuel stops, minimum transit time of 5 minutes, and we said even to roll from one end of the pit to the other takes 32 seconds, so basically you stop for 4.5 minutes. There we go, Burgess in.
And Shelley in, and the safety car is staying out, so we will do another lap under the safety car. And both of our front-running Division A cars pit. In fact, the Spiteri car is going to come in as well. So Burgess in, Shelley in, Spiteri comes in as well. Daniel Deckers has stayed out. So Daniel Deckers leads the race from Nick Cansey and Nathan Geyer at this point. Lachlan McBrien in position number 4. Matt Hewlett goes up to P5. And the Deputy.com team and the Advan Performance Bright Print Group Ginetta team pitted right next to one another. Now, the driver must exit the car before refueling can take place.
So even if he's continuing in the race, he has to be out of the car before he can get back in. And looks like they're going to do a driver change anyway. You might, in the course of some of these pit stops, see a cover put over the rear wheel depending where the refuel tank is. That's a wet blanket to stop any sort of drip onto hot brakes and what have you.
Yeah, there's big penalties, 2.5 minutes penalty for fuel spills as well. That was something that was...
And you can't have that blanket dripping wet either, because officials can't tell the difference between fuel and water on the ground from a distance. So you have to be very careful there.
Yeah, it was something that was emphasised during the driver's briefing yesterday, the risk associated with having fuel spilled on the racetrack and the fact that the teams have their absolute
So no
precautions.
Fuel for Burgess. Thumbs up though.
Well, there's nothing that says that they must refuel the car, so it could be that they're just going to sit there for 5 minutes and get their stop out of the way.
Yep. while the Shelley car has actually had a top up. It must be fairly warm in the car by the way that door's been worked. So they've just opted to do the stop without a driver change, without taking on fuel. Whereas we've seen the Shelley car have a driver change and a fuel top up.
And the safety car is in, so back underway.
So it's half sort of worked, hasn't it, under this basis?
And what's interesting here is that the car that's at the head of the queue is not the race leader. Race leader, which is the Daniel Decker's Mazda MX-5, is actually fourth in the queue. And good job there from all of the drivers. There's not any overlapping or passing permitted until you get to the start-finish line, but everybody well behaved there. And Daniel Decker's straight down the inside, the number 45 BMW E30. Nathan Gee, a good exit. He's going to get a spot on Cansian here. Well judged passing manoeuvre. They're using a laps car to advantage. And Nathan Gee will move up to second outright in the race, relieving Cansian of that position. Good awareness of the traffic for Nathan Gee, but he's now going to have to contend with the lapped cars as well. He goes to the outside of John McElroy at turn 5. He'll go round. Cansian will follow through. Lachlan McBride in the blue BMW in there as well. And meanwhile, the Burgess and the Shelley car both still have to be in the pits for almost another 2 minutes.
Yeah, so it made it very... It's a half-worked strategy and a half-not-worked one by the look of it.
They could have done those cars that are in the pits at the moment with another lap or two under safety car conditions, that's for sure. They've already gone 1 lap down. They will go 2 laps down this time through. So they're going to be, by the time their stop's complete, about 2.5 laps down on the Division B cars, and with the same number of stops to go. So they've basically got 85 laps to make up 2.5 laps.
So, and also they've done they'll be advantageous compared to their rivals in Class A. If we don't get another safety car, then they'll lose even more time. So our current race leader and our current race second will be totally disadvantaged the next time they come in the pit.
You are right, but it can work the other way as well, because if we were to get another safety car and it was to be a longer safety car, then it could actually help the guys who haven't stopped yet in Division A. Still so much to play out in this race. 15 laps complete. This
will be the slowest 5 minutes of all time, I would imagine, as well, for these guys that just have to wait and wait and wait. And you would expect Burgess will go first because they were in first if they've timed this correctly.
So still in for about 25 seconds more, those cars. So there goes Daniel Decker's around the top end complex. So it's going to be about 2 2/3 laps down that they will be. Oh, look at that. Adam Burgess, he's already left his pit bay and he's just going to sit there on the pit apron and wait for the time to elapse.
He knows he's going to be okay, I think.
Here we go. The 5 minutes is now elapsed. They can exit now. In fact, they're going to get out a couple of seconds over the 5 minutes. 5 minutes and 3 seconds for Burgess. 5 minutes and 3 seconds for Shelley. 4 minutes 59.7 for Spiteri. So he's actually gone 0.3 of a second short.
So they'll have to do another pass through pit lane penalty.
You would think so.
So that'll add 32 seconds to their race time. So you don't have to miss by much, but 3 seconds, or 0.3 of a second, is that what we figured? 0.3.
4 minutes 59.7.
Right,
that's
that'll hurt.
How it works. You're a bit under. It has to be black and white. So that early safety car is shaking up the race order. So Daniel Decker's leads by 2.8 seconds from Nick Cansian. Nathan Gee in third position. Lachlan McBride fourth. Those top 4 cars all in Division A, all yet to pit. Matt Thuel was position 5, best of the Division B cars. Matt Stubbs in 6th, second best of the Division B cars. Glenn Townsend 7th, third best of the Division B cars. Jordan Boys, Richard Baskus and Chris Coxhead rounding out the top 10. Chris Coxhead and Thomas McCready gained a big advantage at that safety car because they were the only Class C car not to have been lapped, so they gained almost an entire lap advantage on the other Class C cars in the field.
That certainly puts them in good stead for the remainder of the race as far as their class goes.
Yeah.
What's the highest a Class C car has finished in the event?
we have had them in the top 10 in the past. Back in 2012, Queensland husband and wife combination, Peter and Robin Lacey, came 7th, I think it was, in a Class C or Division C car. So we have seen them finish in the top 10 outright before, but normally you don't see them getting to the top 10 until towards the end of the race.
When everyone else has fallen over.
Correct. Coxhead and McCready are already there after 17 laps, so that's been a great job for them in the 5th gear motoring Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, Mazda's very popular choice, particularly the little sporty MX-5, whether it be turbocharged or not. They've always proven to be popular for this sort of event. And again, we're seeing it happen here today, obviously with them running first and second on the road.
Just hearing word as well that it's front and rear suspension damage for the Shane Tanner and Ben Johnson Nissan 370Z, which has put that car out of the race, and that's the reason that car had to be flat towed back to the pit. So great shame for them, and we strongly suspect that they got caught up in a bit of an altercation with the Andrew Williams, Gavin Ross and Kevin Stoopman WRX, but I'll verify that when I head down to the pits in about 13 laps time.
The other question you could ask there too is if it's got front and rear damage, was one part of it caused by one car and another part caused by another car, or did it
or a wall even?
Yeah. Because there could be a potential drama for another car if it was another car. When you always get that concertina effect on the opening few laps where people are braking and some aren't, particularly on the first couple of corners of a long distance race like this. So the closest they are apart from the safety car, and it's all eyes forward. You're not really looking what's happening around you, are you? Well, it looks like the Andrew Williams car's back out there and running around, so they weren't in the pits that too long, but they are...
Well, they're actually ahead of Burgess and Shelley, so whatever the damage was to that car, it's obviously not something that was too serious for them to be able to fix, because they got their unscheduled stop done in less than 5 minutes. On screen at the moment, just ahead of the Coxhead.
It's certainly a bit different looking Subaru than the manufacturer intended. Here's Adam Burgess, I assume it's Adam Burgess, still the wheel of that car it is, putting...
Yeah, now the other interesting thing there is that Adam Burgess has stayed in car 178. However, at the Deputy.com team, they changed drivers, so it's now Steve Shelley who's hopped into car number 7. Now the interesting thing there is that Jake Shelley got into the car after 13 laps, keeping in mind the 17 lap maximum,
there'll be another driver change.
Steve Shelley has to get back out of that car sometime before lap number 83.
Yep. And the other two drivers will just split what's left, depending on when the safety cars will be around. But certainly plenty going on to play out yet. We're coming up to almost 1/5 the distance. It's going pretty quick at this stage. We've been going for 33 minutes and coming up to lap 20.
Just coming back to the Shelleys as well, so Steve Shelley has to get out of the car before lap 83, but not before lap 43, because then if Jake was to get back in before lap 43, he'd exceed.
Oh, they do have to do another stop.
Or they could do a 3-stopper, which we have seen work before in 2013 when Nick Cansian and Rob Hay won the race. They did both of their compulsory pit stops under safety car, but then they had to do a third quick driver change later on.
Yeah, and there's no 5-minute minimum stop for that third stop either.
Yeah.
Unless you do fuel. If you put fuel in the car, it's 5 minutes. If you don't, you're in there to whatever it takes to do a driver change. Deckers leads the way. Cansian's in second gear, in third, McBrien fourth. Well, they've got Cansian in fifth, but that's 144. That's Matt Tullis in the Peugeot, who is up in that position.
Who continues to lead the way in Division B. He's actually pulled away as well from Matt Stubbs since that safety car restart. He's opened up a lead of about 3.5 seconds on at the BMW M3. Thewlis and Anastakis looking very good in Division B indeed. They were absolutely over the moon after qualifying in the top 10. On race strategy, that car is looking stronger and stronger the further we go into this race. 20 laps complete, so we are a fifth of the way through the Joss Group Winton 300 for 2017. Daniel Decker's doing a great job in the race lead. He's actually pulled away, even though that Mazda MX-5 is naturally aspirated, he's been able to pull away from the turbocharged MX-5 of Cassian, so this is a strong drive for Daniel Deckers. However, we know that Michael Paul probably hasn't been quite as quick in that car as what Deckers has been so far this weekend.
Well, Chris Coxhead has done his fastest lap of the race and nowhere near blowing out, so that's good news for them in doing a 1:38.07 on lap 19, so it was only a lap or two to go. And as you said, they've got quite a march on their rivals. Class D at this point, though, the gap between them is not that big. Bryan and Reynolds are 14th and 15th on the road, and only separated by a point something of a lap. It's a bit hard to determine when the timing is only to the race leaders. Car 75, our race leader, negotiates turn 11 down to 12 to a Hydro Wash Mazda MX-5. Doing a great job out in front, but as we alluded to earlier, if there's no more safety cars, then there's not much chance that they can beat the likes of the cars that have already pitted.
No, so they'll be praying for another safety car. Actually, Michael Hall, when I caught up with him in the pits just before the start of this race, said we're ordering the safety car somewhere between about lap 30 and lap 40. Generally, when you order safety cars,
they usually turn up.
Well, they turn up because you caused them in a lot of cases. So,
that's not what you want.
No. There's the Shelling Lotus on screen. Since that pit stop, Steve Shelley's not been able to really keep pace with Adam Burgess. Burgess has extended a fair margin over the Shelling car.
Yeah, they're currently running in 20th and 21st respectively. Spiteri in 22nd, but we feel as though Spiteri may get a drive-through penalty for undercutting the prescribed minimum lap time, pit time.
This is for position on screen, so Matt Stubbs in 6th position, and up the inside, Glenn Townsend, nice move, and in fact Matt Stubbs made that very easy for him at turn number 7, so Glenn Townsend goes through into 6th outright in the race, 2nd now out of the Division B cars, that Lotus. They weren't happy with that car at all yesterday after qualifying. Anthony Saul said that it was an absolute handfuls of drive and was just not doing what he wanted it to. They made the decision to put it on treaded tyres for the race and make sure that they stayed in Division B with their lap times. And, that seems to be going a bit better for them today.
That's a sensible move because tyres are unrestricted in what you can use, but you have to have your mark set for the race, of course. But whether you run treaded tyres, slicks, or racing road tyres is up to you. And a lot of people base their strategy around keeping the car's pace under control by what tyre they select.
You'd kind of like to see Glenn Townsend and Anthony Saul get a half-decent result out of this race this afternoon because they've had so much bad luck. 2013 they were on target for a podium finish when the car conked out with a fuel pickup issue inside the final 10 laps. 2014 they had mechanical problems when they were running in the top 5. 2015 they qualified on pole but crashed out on lap number 1, and then last year in the wet weather they spun off the circuit on several occasions and ended up coming home in 15th position. So from a emotional point of view, kind of nice to see them finish somewhere near the pointy end today.
Hasn't been able to shake off Stubbs at all once he got past him a lap earlier, so they're still running nose to tail there. So probably from Stubbs' point of view, it's probably a good benchmark to run with him for a while.
Seeing as well that the Andrew Williams, Kevin Stooten and Gavin Ross cars back in the pits, so too the best Mitsubishi Evo back in the pits as well, so clearly the problem is not totally resolved with those cars. Also the Cooper Capillari, Michael Bryce, Reece Collins, Commodore came in for a pit stop of 5 minutes and 46 seconds, so they're in no danger of being penalised for that one. In fact, it's probably a bit too long because, okay, you don't want to go below 5 minutes and risk a penalty, but you don't want to be too far over 5 minutes because then you're just losing time. Daniel Deckers and Nick Cansey both punching out their personal best laps of the race on lap 23. Minute 32.1 for Daniel Deckers. They've had serious pace in that Hydra Wash Mazda MX-5 this weekend. Nick Cansey in a 32.4, 5.3 seconds the margin between those two cars. Nathan Gear just fading back a bit. He's now 11 seconds off the lead. Lachlan McBrien sitting in fourth, and John Spiteri dropping all four wheels off the racetrack out of turn 9. The other thing as well is the Burgesses and the Shelleys not making huge inroads on the lead at the moment. They're still well over 2.5 laps off the lead of the motor race. So while those two cars that have pitted early have been having to work hard to negotiate their way through traffic, not actually making up that much ground on the other division cars on. We've got the Shelley car in the pits, car number 7, the Deputy.com Lotus back into the pits on lap number 20. Now there's no safety car, so you would have to imagine that this would be an unscheduled stop. What is the go with car number 7?
Well, hopefully we'll have a camera down there. We'll see what is happening with that car, but that's not good to be pitting again this early in the race.
No, that I can't imagine that would be another scheduled pit stop. It's too early for Jake Shelling to get back into the car. There's no safety car, so it doesn't make a whole lot of strategic sense for them to be in the pits at this point in time.
They were in position 21, well 20, they were in 20, but now they've dropped down. In the meantime, the Burgess car's back up to 16th and just 2 laps off our leader, so they're making good inroads into getting back up towards the front of the field. Here we're watching Spiteri and car 6, there it is in the pits.
Oh wow, that's not looking good, isn't it? Look at the smoke billowing out of the exhaust of that car.
That looks like it could be an engine issue.
There's Jake Shelley there leaning in the passenger side of the car. Unbelievable. So could this be our 6th retirement from 7 races for the pole-sitting car? There you go. Right on cue. Up comes the graphic on the screen showing us the results that the pole-sitting cars had. A best finish of 19th for the car that started on pole position in 2012. A DNF's 5 out of the 6 Winton 300s that we've had since 2011. And Trent Murphy's there, Jake Shelley's on the scene. The rest of the crew all looking at the car, trying to work out what the problem is. But all of this time that they're losing in the pits is not going to be helping their cause whatsoever. And you would have to say that even if they can somehow get that car back out into the race, their chances of outright victory this afternoon or even an outright podium finish are rapidly fading away. Going to be a lot of news items for me to chase up when I head to the pits, Gary.
You're going to be a busy boy down there for sure. Yeah, you wonder whether it's actually detonated something in the engine or blown a head gasket. It's got that look about of a head gasket gone with could be steam coming out the exhaust. But
there they are, Steve and Jake. Yep.
Their race is done.
Their day is done. Yep. Wow.
Was not to be expected that they would be out so early, but you've put the mocker on them again, Lockie, with being on pole position.
I just cannot believe the bad luck. I can't think of any other motor race in Australian motorsport where the pole-sitting car has had such a run of outs as the Winton 300. Extraordinary.
We're back out on track. Spiteri's on screen at the moment. That's Trevin Spiteri. Currently running in... No, it's not driven. It's the other Spiteri in the car.
John
in position 20. So we think that they may have a drive-through at some stage, or I wonder if they could just add it on to their next stop. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, that is a possibility. No word from race control on that one yet. On screen at the moment, the number 6 Mazda MX-5 Nick Cansian, which currently sits in second position, 7.4 seconds off the lead of the race. His lap times have just drifted back a bit, but that's probably because he's working his way through traffic at the moment. 34.1 for Cansian last time through.
Possibly the good news at the moment is that Andrew Williams is back out on track, as is Zach Best. So whatever their dramas were, they have resolved them or worked around them and got themselves back out into the race. I noticed there that Adam Burgess' last lap was at 31.6, so they're still hanging around that cut-off point, and you wouldn't want to go too quick. Someone's overstepped the track limits there at turn 1, only marginally so. It gets underway, which would probably be one of those cars up ahead of them. Car 6 on screen, Nick Cansian goes through.
So there's the Burgess car at the moment. So it sits in position 16. It's the best of the Division A cars that's done a pit stop, and it's gradually pegging back laps. And there's a couple of cars that it's racing that it's not actually in wheel-to-wheel combat with at the moment. Obviously there's the other Division A cars that have not stopped yet, but there's also the leading contingent of Division B cars, the Thewlis, Anastakis, Peugeot, Townsend, Sewell, Lotus, Stubbs, Reynolds entry, and we're going to have another safety car here. We do. And
83.
Sage Murdoch and Gavin Holland car, which has stopped on the circuit.
Safety car number 2.
And
so
now the problem here for...
And it's lost a wheel.
Oh, wow. I was just going to say, the problem here is we've not got to lap number 30 yet, so it's too early for the Division B cars to do their one and only.
But here, Deckers and Cansian should, and Gaia and McBride should get in now straight away.
Agreed, yep.
That way they'll get an advantage over Burgess as a result, because they won't be able to complete as many laps under a full, and it's going to take them the 5 minutes or more to get this car back to the pits. But how many times has one of these CXC Global Evos lost a wheel, if that's what indeed it's done there? Looks like it has.
So Nick Cansian's not pitted, so Cansian stays out and leads the race. The other 3 Division A cars are all in. The Deckers Hall car is in, so to the Gia Showers car and the McBride Butcher car all in for their first compulsory pit stop. So Cansian continues to lead now ahead of Thewlis, Townsend, Stubbs. Now what does the Ginetta do here? Because it's too early for...
Stays out.
Yeah, it does. You're right, it stays out. I was just about to say Adam Burgess has not yet completed his minimum number of laps in the car, so it probably doesn't quite work for them to make their second compulsory stop now, unless they wanted to do a quick driver change. That'd also be, you'd have to say, trying to get to the end, still 72 laps to go, or 74 in fact it is for them, on a single tank of fuel would be a pretty tall order, you would think. So they do indeed stay out. I'll tell you what, where these safety cars have fallen and the drivers and teams that have chosen to take them or not take them, this is shaping up to be a really, really fascinating strategic race, Gary.
Strategies are playing out for us, aren't they?
They sure are. I'm surprised that Cansian and Hay have stayed out. When they won the race in 2013, they were one of the opportunists who chose to pit under early safety cars, so I'm not sure why they're not taking the opportunity to do so this year.
How far has that wheel moved away from where the car was?
Gee whiz. So that's ended up all the way back down over the fence by the looks of it at turn number 3.
Yeah.
Wow. And so look at that, the recovery crews are going to have to march it all the way back over to where the car is.
Now, if you were Spiteri, wouldn't you, if you had a pit lane penalty to serve, wouldn't you do it now?
Yeah, we're still not sure that they've been given one though.
Well, it appears as though they haven't. So maybe they're...
It was 0.3 of a second. There is, I know that where the pit lane de-restriction signs are compared to where the timing loops are on the racetrack, there is a bit of a disparity.
Yeah.
And sometimes the officials do give you a little bit, and I'm
Well,
talking
0.3.
the tiniest bit of leniency.
Yeah, so they might be okay.
Just, yeah. Now, the other interesting thing here, as the Cansian car does now pit a lap later. And thanks Steve Shelley, glued the engine when our day is done. He's just messaged me the curse of P1.
Yep.
You have to feel for them, big supporters of these 300k endurance races, but they will not be taking any further part in the race, so confirming that we do have our 6th DNF from pole position from the 7 Winton 300s that we've had since 2011. Matt Thewlis now leads the race outright as a result of this.
Class B cars are now running 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Class C car should effectively move into P6 with Coxhead. So there's a good chance this Class C car could be very prominent towards the end of the race.
Now, so I reckon that Deckers, Gia and McBrien, they're going to get out of the pits in less than 60 seconds time. They're going to join onto the back of the train behind the safety car. I think
They'll be a lap, almost
they're going
a lap
to
up.
be a lap up almost on the Burgess car. So by actually delaying their stop, the fact that this safety car has gone for a bit longer, it could actually play right into their hands.
Class D car in, I noticed there, car 233, which seems a bit unusual, although they haven't gone minimum driver yet either.
They've got 3 drivers in that car as well.
So that makes sense.
Car. Yep.
Yeah, 1/3 distance, so that's a driver change.
Yep, Caitlin Hawkins, Richard Luff and John Reynolds sharing that VE Commodore SS.
Well, that's probably, that means that Reynolds will be out. Stint done for the day.
So here we go, we're about to have cars leaving the pits very shortly, you would expect. Yep, so Daniel Deckers is out in 5 minutes and 8 seconds. He's well and truly okay. Michael Hall now scored in that car. Here comes the Gear and Showers car. The McBrien and Butcher car about to leave as well. Yep, it's on its way. And so they will all be out well and truly over the 5 minutes.
Usually about 2 or 3 seconds by the look of what we can see.
And the lights are still on the safety car, so we're not going to restart this time around. And so, yes indeed, they are going to be, by the time they join onto the back of the queue, almost a lap ahead of the Burgesses. Wow.
And Cansian will get out too before the race goes green as well. By the look of it, 2 minutes 46, 47 seconds in the pits. And what's the safety car lap about?
2 and a half.
Yeah, so they should be fine.
2.5 to 3 minutes.
Oh, they might actually beat the safety car out.
Here comes the... Wow, look at the damage to the left rear of the CJR Performance
Just knocked
Mitsubishi Evo
that
9.
rear bumper off.
Wow. So what this is going to do as well is it'll end up, we'll have more cars probably on the lead lap once all the pit stops have played out. So Matt Thewlis now leads, Glenn Townsend second, Matt Stubbs third, Jordan Boys, who started this race from 16th on the grid up to 4th position. Great performance from the Dunlop Super 2 Series driver. Richard Vasquez in position number 5. And they're basically the 5 cars that are on the lead lap. Coxhead and Montgomery had been lapped by Cansian before the safety car came out. So they're just on the lead lap. They're at the front of the train behind the safety car.
And they're holding... is there an issue with that car down at the end of the pit lane? Car 233, that's the one we spoke about, the Class D Commodore. That is stopped. So dramas for 233 in their first driver change.
Yeah, It's weird. I'm not sure what they're doing inside that car at the moment. In other news, Gary, we have completed 30 laps. So do you know what that means?
You're off.
I'm pit bound, so I'll talk to you from down in pit lane very shortly.
Right. I look forward to hearing all the tales of woe that have been going on. And meanwhile, did that car get going that was at the end of pit lane? And we're just about to see the Nick Cansian car rejoin as it heads back out, and the Commodore has gone. So good news for the 233, the Hawkins car. Caitlin Hawkins at the wheel. And we're still under safety car here at the moment. With safety car actually left the track now, so we've gone back to greens. This will be the completion of lap 31. Our second safety car period now comes to a close, and we're back under racing conditions again. As we see them get underway now, race is back underway for the second time, and there's a little 144 Peugeot leading the way. Matt Tulis at the wheel, trying to find his way through the traffic. He wasn't at the head of the queue. They do try as much as possible to get the leader, but it's not always that way, and he's had a bit of difficulty getting past the McElroy Falcon at the moment, which would have a fair bit of speed in a straight line, and Matt will have to work his way around that car, and he does so around the outside of turn 5. That's going game. He's got away with it and set sail towards the front of the pack. So Class B cars currently running in the top 5 positions. Tulis leads the way with Townsend second, Stubbs third, Boys fourth, and Baskus in 5th position. The first of Class C cars in 6th in Coxhead, and then we go back to Montgomery in 7th. Hall, our leading Class A car, in 8th position at the moment, and effectively a lap down, but that will all change in the ensuing time, with Phil Showers now in the number 5 BMW 9th, Butcher in 10th, Hay 11th, McElroy, who we've just seen on screen, second in Class C, is currently running in 12th position, Brian in 13th, Burgess up to 14th, and on another car stopped, and that's the Subaru that's been in trouble since early on. Car number 12, Andrew Williams at the wheel. It's limping back down the back straight towards turn 11, so effectively it shouldn't be in harm's way if it gets back without dramas, but it has been a race fraught with difficulties for that car. We think involved in an early incident with the number 27 Nissan, and then possibly through ongoing situation more dramas, but no, it's back underway again. So whatever the drama was, they seem to resolve it on the fly, or he may have just been getting out of the way of the traffic steaming through on him. As we now look at car 73 on screen, doing a good job as well. Anthony Sewell and Glenn Townsend in the Lotus is potentially our fastest car out there, the Craig and Adam Burgess Janetta, as we said, currently running was in 14th, picked up 2 spots on that lap, so it's up to 12th, so it's bordering on getting back into the top 10 as we continue to watch the Townsend car in P2 at the moment, trails our race leader by about 2.7 seconds, so not a lot in it. Their lap times about a second apart at the moment. Chulis did a 34.7 on that lap, and the car that we're looking at a 35.4, 7/10 of a second between the pair of them, and still a long way to go. Effectively, we're 1/3 of the race complete, 33 laps done, 67 obviously to go. Car 78, Glenn Townsend through there. Another that's been going quite strong since the first safety car, getting into a very prominent position in the BMW and continuing on in second position. Third position, Jordan Boys, Chelsea Angelo in the V8 Ute racing, Ford Falcon Ute obviously, and this car, the Motorsports Training Australia students work on this car. They've done a good job. Angelo's first race for the year after competing at various times in Formula 3 and in the development series. This is her first run this year. Jordan Boys, who's currently in the car, has been running in the Kumho Tyres V8 Touring Car Series, and also done a couple of rounds of the development series, Dunlop Super 2s. So he's getting plenty of miles under his belt. Will be at Newcastle in a fortnight for the final round of the development series in a Commodore run out of Image Racing. At the moment they're in a Falcon and motoring along in fourth spot. And there's more trouble for Williams now, almost at a stop. Again, having drama, so they're having possibly limp mode issues. They were having them yesterday. Kevin Superman was saying that he was in the car, it was going fine. They're down at turn 8 by the look of it, or approaching turn 8. And that is not a very good position to be in. One would suspect there could possibly be a third safety car because of this, if they can't get their car going. Generally speaking, they go into limp mode. What you have to do is, we like to use the computer technology called Control-Alt-Delete. In other words, just switch the engine off and refire it. But in some cases, when it's happening in some of these modern cars, you can do it while the car's actually on the straight and moving, so you don't lose much base. And they're bringing the fire marshal out to see what's happening. Okay, we're going to cross over to Lachlan Mansell for a first update on what's happening in pit lane.
Thanks, Gary. I'm down here in the pits with Alexandra Best. Alex, your car's been in and out of the pits all day. What's gone wrong exactly?
Earlier in the stint for Dad, the diff mount was loose. We thought the diff had broken, but just the mount was quite loose and it was clunking around a lot. In the moment, we've got a vibration in the car that Zach's just monitoring. It's all from our rear axle braking on the Friday afternoon of practice.
Is it something that you think you can manage for the rest of the race and still get to the end?
It depends how bad the vibration is, because it's just Zach just told us before, so he's just monitoring it at the moment, hoping it's not going to be too bad.
When are you planning to get into the car, all things going well?
Zach's still got about 30 laps to go, because he only just started his stint basically.
All right, hopefully you guys can get to the end and bring home a good result for Benalla.
Yeah, hopefully.
Cheers, Gary, back to you.
Thanks, Lockie, and let's hope they can run all day without further dramas. In the meantime, it's been nothing's happened with car 12 down at turn 8. I think they did get it going again. And it looks like they got it going again. So fortunately, no safety car, which is what we were aiming for. The fire truck has gone in, and we've got the Commodores. Looks like it might have had a lose there, but he's got it going again. Unless they're having a similar problem and having to switch off. It's Caitlin Hawkins at the wheel at the moment, after Reynolds did the early session in it. But not what you want to see. Class E car currently running in 19th position, some 5 laps off our leaders, as Matt Tulis finishes his 36th lap, 6.6 seconds ahead of Townsend, and almost nothing now between Townsend and Stubbs, as they've fight it out for second position in the race. Boys just in there as well, another something around the lines of 5.3 seconds in arrears of this, with Jason Miller and go and go back down to pits with Lockie.
Here with Lachlan McBrien, who's completed his opening stint in the BMW M3. How's that one, Lachlan?
Yeah, she's pretty warm out there, Lockie. It's tricky for everyone, you know. Got out and just sweat pouring off me. Didn't realise how hot I was in the car till I got out. But it's tyres are starting to go off a bit now, and everyone's going to have the same problem. So it's just about managing how hot it is and managing your energy and the car all the way through this race till we get to the last 20 laps or so, and see how we go from there.
How well did that second safety car work for you strategy-wise?
Yeah, that couldn't have been any more perfect for us. We the first safety car, we were umming and ahhing whether we'd come in after that, but made the call. Lock Higgins made the call to leave us out, and it worked perfect. It was the end of what we wanted in terms of window-wise, so that was good for us.
Andrew Butcher's in the car now, obviously. Is the plan for you to get back in for the end?
Yeah, I'll be getting back in. We'll see how Butch goes. He's really good in these endurance conditions, just for driving around nice and gently and, you know, preserving the car and doing nice consistent laps. So I'll get in later on and see where we stack up.
All right, thank you, Lachlan. Go well for the rest of the race.
Thanks, Lock. Cheers.
Thanks, Lockie. We're back live with the action, so getting all the updates from the pits makes it very easy to determine how it is. And it's obvious that the heat is an issue at the moment, and you can see that not only are the drivers affected by it, but the tyre wear could become prevalent towards the end. We were talking about the Bacchus Miller Evo 9, which is up in 5. We're going back down to the pits, and Lachlan again.
Yeah, the interview's coming thick and fast down here in the pits, Gary, because there's plenty of news for me to chase up. Down here with Nick Cansey, and Nick, you're going pretty quickly at the beginning of your stint, but Daniel Deckers was pulling away from you towards the end of it.
Yeah, we're going all right out there. We had a few problems yesterday. It was a bit dirty fuel, and yeah, we went too quick in qualifying, so we're a bit nervous of that. So we're just trying to keep under the 131, and we know that Deckers couldn't go any faster. So if we could keep a gap between me and him and not catch him too much, we knew we weren't going to go under the time. So I was just trying to, you know, keep behind him and keep a gap, keep the car cool, and so far so good.
We've seen that when your car runs reliably, you generally finish in the top 3 here. How's it holding up mechanically?
So far it's running really well. It's getting a little bit warm when you get close to the other competitors. But if we can keep a safe distance and just keep doing lap after lap consistently without going under that time, we should come up pretty well at the end.
How long is Rob expecting to stay in the car for?
Well, we had a few problems with fuel. We were using too much. We were using E85, so now we've put normal 98 in it, so we're going to use a lot less. So we're going to try and run until it gets near empty. As long as we can make it home on the last fuel stop, that's when I'll jump in.
All right, all the best for the rest of the race.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lockie. That's already an indication. He's got a hand out the window signalling acknowledgement of a pit window. That's Rob Hay in the car. Currently running 10th outright. Started the race 11th and got right up to the lead of the race. So they've been one of the chargers in this race at the moment. But interesting to hear that their concern will be fuel. Whether they can get through with just one more stop, or they may have to they can't do a splash. You've got to be there 5 minutes, and if that's the case, that might put them in a little bit of drama. Lockie again.
One of the cars that unfortunately has had problems in this race, the mini challenge car of Ian McDougall and Barney Hogan. Ian, you're running so well, but then the car conked out on the track. What went wrong?
Yeah, we're travelling pretty well, and then the crank angle sensor let go. So we've just got to spare one in, and we'll just go out and see how many laps we can do and see where we shake out at the end.
Pretty unlucky to have a failure like that when you're running so well within Class B.
Yeah, we were sitting pretty comfortable. There were 3 of us kind of lapping about the same pace, everyone watching each other. So I was looking forward to a really good battle, and back in pit lane about an hour earlier than I was planning. So never ideal, but we'll push on and see where we end up.
Hopefully we'll see you back out there soon.
Yeah, I don't think we're far away, so let's get back out there.
There we go. There is the news on the Mini, Gary.
Thank you, Lockie. More cars in the pits as we speak. Andrew Williams Subaru's back in there. Caitlin Hawkins is also back in the Commodore. We've seen stop a couple of times, once on the way out of the pits, and Lisa Montgomery has been in the pits as we see John Spiteri get a little bit wide out of turn 9. So more stuff for Lockie to chase down, particularly the Hawkins car. There's obviously an issue with that car. The Williams car, we suspect, is because of the damage caused early, but no problems for this little beast at the moment, the Peugeot 205 GTI of Matt Chulis and Anastakis. At the moment it's Chulis at the wheel, and they're just powering on. They're 7.5 seconds up the road from Glenn Townsend, with another 2.2 seconds back to Matt Stubbs in third spot. Jordan Boys is closing too, because no, big pardon, he's about 7 seconds further back. But top 5 spots at the moment held by Class B cars. The first of the Class A cars is car number 75. That's Michael Hall sharing the Mazda MX-5 with Daniel Deckers, who was another that put in some really good early laps in this race to get up to the pointy end of the field. And they're currently ahead of the Adam Burgess Ginetta, yet to have a driver change. It's been Adam Burgess from the start. They're back up to P11, so good recovery from those guys, even though they've got the class competitors ahead of them. And the safety car, the first one, just didn't quite work for them. They were in the pits when the safety car period was over, so they got it about half right, I guess you'd say. But at the moment now having to chase down that deficit, all the time mindful that they have an issue, and I think we see a 30.9 from Burgess, so that would make for their second strike. On lap 31 they've had their second strike, so one more strike and that car will be out of the race. So there's a quick rundown on your screens. If you are watching on the live stream, Chulis leads away from Townsend, Stubbs, Boys, Vasquez and Hall is the leader of Class A, while the cars ahead of him are all in Class C. Still we've got Hawkins and Williams in the pits. Some of the others are more terminal. We're expecting the McDougall Mini to come back out. They're saying that the crank angle sensor was the issue with that car, so that means that they can get going. And we're going to go back down to Lachlan in pit lane.
An update for you, Gary, on the problems for the two Commodores. So there's the Hawkins, Rice and Reynolds car. Sorry, let me get that right again. Hawkins, Luff and Reynolds. So John Reynolds, who's actually David Reynolds' dad, did the opening stint. And they came in to do their scheduled pit stop, but then the stationary time, the clutch fluid got really hot and boiled, and it means that the clutch hasn't been working, so they've had to come back into the pits to get that addressed. The other Commodore, which is the Capillari Rice car, fuel pump problem for that car, so they're trying to fix that at the moment.
Okay, thanks for that. It's great to have those updates on what's happening with our competitors running here. So it hasn't been easy going for some of them, and certainly you don't want to fry your clutch around here on a day like today with the fluid getting hot like that. Car 59 on screen for you at the moment. That's the Butcher's BMW, Andrew Butcher at the wheel, Lachlan McBrien, who did the early session and is expected to maybe jump back into that one because of the earlier pit stop. But currently running in 8th position, 40 laps completed. Leaders completed 42, so they're effectively 2 laps off our race leaders. Still a long way to go and pit stops to come as we get towards the halfway mark, and we shouldn't be that far off having to do more pit stops, and these could potentially be under green race conditions. You'd be really hoping that you'd get a safety car about now. That would bring the whole field basically in to undergo their second stops, and perhaps send them off for what will be a non-stop run for everyone to the finish. Car 55, the Suzuki Swift of Michael Hopp and Peter Swordwell, in for what would be their stop. At the moment they're using the wet cloth and wet blanket ferry to fill that up. Driver has to be out of the car, and you can see that the personnel doing the fueling are making sure that there's no such issues with fires with the right conditions. This would be their one and only mandatory stop, so they can run from this point onwards to the end of the race. And at the moment Peter Sortwell would be out of the car. Michael Hopp to get in for the second half of this race, which is slightly over second half, not much in it, and gambled that perhaps there may not be a safety car. They can get their stop out of the way and then run on. At the moment they're running third in Class E, but the good news is they're on 2 laps down on the leaders, so effectively this stop will put them back towards the pointy end of Class C. They're currently in 18th position, 3 minutes and 20 seconds into that stop. Car 73 on screen, Glenn Townsend in the car he's sharing with Anthony Sewell. As I said, they decided they run treaded tyres for this event in order to remain in Class B and not blow out at any stage on that time. Of course, the way the classes work, if your car can lap between 131 and 134, you're in Class A. 134 to 136 is a Class B car. So if you're in B and you blow out and go under 134, then you get penalised for it. Class C is under 139, Class D is under 142, and Class E is over 142 as your minimum lap times. And again, we're going to go down to Lachlan Mansell down on pit lane.
Well, approaching half race distance for the 2017 Joss Group Winton 300 with Parry Anastakis, and Parry, the little car that could, is leading the race. How are you feeling?
Oh, can you believe it? Things are falling our way. It's fantastic. Matt Thulis is doing a fantastic job out there. Very proud of him. Very consistent laps, and he's got a hot Lotus Exceed chasing him. So it's going to be good. We just need to get to the finish.
Pit strategy, can you give us any ideas when you might be planning to come in for Matt to get out and you to get in?
Yeah, our little car doesn't use any fuel, so we're starting to approach our pit window. Hopefully we get a safety car. If not, we'll be pitting around, say 55, and I'll be in the car.
I know how long you've supported these events for and how much this means to you. How special would it be for you guys to finish on the outright podium this afternoon?
Oh, look, it doesn't matter. We did a top 10 yesterday, milestone number 1. We're leading at 300, milestone number 2. If we finish, I'll be happy.
There we go. I think the gist of everything down here, Gary, seems to be that a lot of those Division B cars are hoping that there'll be a safety car sometime between now and lap 70 so they can do their compulsory pit stop.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Lockie. We sort of hope so too. It'll really spice up this race and make some of those Class A cars think about where they're at. But it's a gamble, and it may not work. In the end, you're not going to lose anything if there's no safety cars, but you must pit before lap 70 to meet the driver minimum requirements of time behind the wheel. And you would not have thought at any stage that this car could be a potential podium finisher. The way it's been travelling, though, they've done a fantastic job. Certainly not wearing out that offside rear tyre. It's off the ground, most of those left-handers, which is good. As it continues on, Matt Tulis leading the way and just pulling away from Glenn Townsend. It's 15.68 seconds now, that gap, and it will be a great storyline to see this team win this race. And as Lockie alluded to, with talking to Parry Anastakis there, wouldn't it be good for someone to support the event for such a long time to get a win out of it from an unlikely source? And we don't mean that in any disparaging way. They've just done an amazing job, and consistency can always bring it home. I won't say too much more. Commentators curse and all that, but we just revel in what this little car has done so far, and he's kicked off two of his bucket list options for this race. One to go, and that's to finish the race, and bonus if it finishes well up the order, which is likely to do at this stage. So just checking where they're at. We've completed 46 laps on 47 now. Race leader is 16.5 seconds or a bit over ahead of Townsend, with Stubbs third, Vasquez fourth, Hall up to fifth spot in the first of the Class A cars ahead of Showers, Butcher. Burgess now up to 8th spot, but still 2 laps adrift, and getting that 2 laps back is not going to be easy. Hay in 9th, Coxhead, the Class C leader, is in 10th, and Boys now in the pits, and Bacchus in the pits. So we've got Class B cars, Lockie, coming into the pits, good ones to keep an eye out on. We thought they might hang out a bit longer, but some of them have taken the option of coming in now and getting that stop out of the way.
So because this is a turbocharged car, they are allowed to leave the engine running while the pit stop's taking place, and that's obviously so that the turbo doesn't overheat. So I'll just talk you through this pit stop as it gets covered. So the driver has to get out of the car while the refueling component of the stop is taking place. So Richard Vasquez is out of the car. His stint is done. This is one of the teams that's actually using a dry brake refueling system, but a lot of the cars in this event don't have the dry brake refueling equipment. So that's the reason that there's the 5-minute time minimum on the stop, so that the people without the dry brake refueling systems have plenty of time to refuel the car safely. So once the fuel is topped up, then we'll see what other work they do on the car. Sometimes on the Evos we see them changing tyres, but in this case they don't have any other tyres ready to go, so looks like they're probably going to try and do the rest of the race on the tyres. Right, so the fuel's done. That part of the stop is complete. They're just making sure there's no spillage. They removed the wet blanket, and now Jason Miller, the incoming driver, is going to get into the car, and Richard Vasquez, the outgoing driver, will help get him strapped in for the run home.
Thank you, Lockie, back here at main commentary point. And in case you wonder who that was standing at the front of the car, that's Jamie Miller, former sports sedan racer, super touring development series driver as well, father of Josh Miller, who is a water ski champ as well, and having a go at motor racing for a little while now, and I believe the sister is a very good skier as well, an Australian champion. Their car, of course, the ex-Alan East Evo 9, the car that David Wall and John Bauer raced at Bathurst in the 6-hour last year, and came home with a very good result. A little bit of controversy towards the end with a bit of a dust up down at Murray's Corner, but got it home. So this car's currently placed 10th, and they've been in the pits for 2.5 minutes or just over, so stop's done. They just have to wait the rest of the time. Car 59 and car 5, 2 BMWs at it here. 59, of course, is a Class A car, as is 5, so that's a change of lead in Class A that happened right about that time. Yes, so, and Burgess has now jumped the pair of them. So Adam Burgess is up to 5, Butcher's in 6, Showers in 7, Hay 8th. So we're finding now that Burgess is fighting their way back. And how many laps has Adam Burgess done in the mid-40s, 31s? Closest being a 31.2 to a breakout, but and then they've done 4s and 6s and 5s. So it's the car on screen as it puts another lap on the Commodore with Caitlin Hawkins at the wheel, and is just really running it as close to the threshold as it possibly can as far as lap times go, and still one more stop up its sleeve. So the interesting part about this is now that the Class A cars, because they pitted early, will now go back to the head of the field if the remaining Class B cars, which is Tulis, Townsend and Stubbs, affect their stops anytime soon. Maybe they're going to hang out as long as they possibly can. We're halfway through the race now, and at the moment Tulis leads by 20.7 seconds over Townsend, with another 7 seconds back to Stubbs. Hall in fourth spot, who's a lap down, as is Burgess, and we're trying to get a gap between car 75, which is the Hall and Decker's MX5, and the car running here on screen in front of us. And dramas for another one of our Evos. Looks like the exhaust system, that's the Spiteri car, Class A car. Looks like the exhaust has fallen down at the back. John Spiteri was at the wheel. That was one of the early pit stoppers. So this could effectively be their second compulsory stop as they fix this problem. With the Evo, they can fuel it here, do their driver change, and you would wish that they would get it all done in time to get back out on the 5-minute mark. Car 75, that's the one we've been talking about, the Hall Decker's MX5, currently running in position 4 and leading Class A, but the gap coming down, and we're just trying to see if we can get a visual on where the Ginetta is in comparison. We've had that car go, here it comes now, so it's not that different. So start finish line to about turn number 3 is the gap between first and second in Class A, and going on their last lap times a 34.5 from 75 and a 31.6, so it's about 3 seconds a lap faster than the leader. 8.4 seconds the gap between those two. As they continue on their way, still lots to go through in this race. With Tulis lead now out to 23.5 seconds and 5.2 seconds back to Stubbs. So that Tulis has increased his margin, but I think it's more the fact that Townsend has lost time somewhere on that lap, because the gap between first and third has remained fairly stagnant over that period. Again, we watch this battle as we see the leader in Class A coming up to perhaps take a position off the third place Class B car. No, there's a lap between them at the moment, and about 2 seconds a lap difference in their speed as well. So what the MX5 will be doing, will be trying to get a lap back off the BMW in third spot. Burgess should be in the background somewhere. He's closing in quickly on these two. And Townsend runs, Stubbs runs wide out of turn 7, allows that car to go through. It seems to be the way they're racing. They're not fighting the opposition there because they're in a different class, but they're just allowing those guys to come through and then follow them around for a few laps and gain some advantage from getting the tow. As you can see, the Ginetta coming up behind the duo there that were just locked in the battle for track position rather than outright position. Now we watch Adam Burgess should go past, 40 go past, hasn't quite yet. And we've got the BMW Mini off the road again. They had a crank angle sensor go on this car earlier. Has it happened again, and will it trigger a safety car? We go to Lachlan in the pits.
Down here we with one of our leading Class C runners, the Thomas McCready and Chris Coxhead's cars going really well. Thomas, some of those safety cars worked out really well for you and gave you almost a lap advantage on the other Class C cars.
Yeah, it actually worked out really well for us. We actually didn't notice until probably after the safety car had finished, and then we looked at the screen and we were worried that they were right behind us, but we're full lap in front, so we're doing really well so far.
Considering it's Chris's first time doing a race start, you'd have to say that he's done an exceptional job.
Yeah, was a little bit nervous at the start coming down the main straight, and I thought it might have been him that spun right at the start, but turned out we were all scot-free, so yeah, we're going really well.
Any reports from him on the radio in terms of how the car is performing?
The car's it's going hard. The tyres are holding up. The brakes seem to be okay. Hopefully, he'll leave me some for when I get in. I think he's just getting a bit hot out there, so we've got the water ready to go.
All right, well, we've got a safety car, so we might let you go and think about doing a pit stop.
No worries. See you. Cheers.
Well, Lockie's just about to get very busy then, because all the Class B cars will do their stop now. I imagine the Class A cars that still have scheduled stops would be in as well. This is the one that the Class B cars were praying for. Get him in the pits. Downson's already in. He was right near the pit entry at the time. So car 73, they were the first of the front runners to come in, and they will get quite an advantage out of this. And it disadvantages our Class A runners because they'll gain nothing from it. Now where that BMW is parked is obviously down at turn 3. There it is. Car number 22. Unfortunate for them after such a brilliant effort in the early part. So effectively we're going to have almost the second half of this race run without pit stops, which is really interesting, as our race class leading A car, well, would have been, did they all pit together? They have. So it wasn't actually in the lead of the class. It was right behind the class leader in Hay. Adam Burgess getting out of that car. And while the fuel will go in, remember too that they didn't put fuel in it at that early stop. 5 minutes to undergo all that. Sadly, you can see the rear of the latest HPE. They went out with a blown engine earlier. They're major rivals, as it turns out. Now, Tulis has stayed out, Butcher stayed out, Hayes stayed out. Showers has already done their stop. So they're in a fairly good position to take over the lead of the race. Just a little bit surprised that maybe they were past the pit entrance to affect their stop last time around, and will do it this time. So the pit lane will become very congested by the time the safety car comes around again, because I would imagine that you'd want to be in there to finish off that requirement for mandatory stops. Various different fuel strategies. Anyone using a NASCAR style churn won't be allowed to after this year. They've been outlawed. This is the last year, so you've got the hand driven pump and the gravity driven fuel mechanisms to use. Some have one or the other. We've seen at car 20 the Miller entry had a gravity and dry brake system. Others are using it. Now Tulis is in. So effectively our race leader in, and that will leave, I would suspect Butcher and Hayes. So Phil Showers should effectively take over the lead of this race, although it looks like car 59 has stayed out. It has. That's the Andrew Butcher, Lachlan McBrien entry, and I think that they have done their stop, so they might be okay as well. Although I'm thinking that maybe not. Phil Showers in second. Hopefully we'll get an update on who has pitted. I didn't see the number 59 do their stop, but Lachlan was talking to Lachlan McBrien a little bit earlier, so we should get an update on that as well. More cars coming in the background. Oh, that's one of the towed cars coming back by the look of it. At the back here, and here's what was our race leader, and still is actually, because the butcher car is actually just completing their lap that will bring them back onto the leader lap 1 minute in, so they will lose the lead if Butchers and Showers stay out. Townsend as well, second in Class B, currently in 6th position, will gain out of this as well.
So just a bit of an update for you, Gary, from down here in the pits. So the situation is that the two BMWs that you referred to, the Butcher McBrien car and also the Gia Showers car, they've both done one of their two compulsory pit stops, being Division A cars, but they don't want to do another stop just yet because it's too early for them to do another driver change. So that's the reason those cars have stayed on the racetrack. The other interesting thing is that the Anastakis and Thulis car stayed out for a lap and got trapped behind the safety car. So this might be a bit costly for them in terms of the battle with the Anthony Sewell Glenn Townsend car, and also the Matt Stubbs and Daniel Reynolds car. I think the Sewell Townsend car might actually end up pretty well placed out of all of the Division B cars at the end of this pit stop cycle.
Thanks for that, Lockie. Yeah, and there's a good chance that we may go green before we're going green now. So that was a very quick pit stop, but it'll catch out a few of them who won't have gained all that much out of it. The first one that will cross the line won't necessarily be the lap of the race leader. We'll try and pick up where they are in the queue. At the moment it's there they are there, nose to tail, 59 and 5. Two Class A cars yet to make their second stop. The thing is that some of the ones that are in the pits of Class A have their second stop underway, so well worth keep watching where they will end up out of that. So we'll see the Burgess car obviously drop down the field, the Tulis Anastakis car will as well, but no more stops for them, no more stops for basically everyone that's in the pits. Won't have to have another stop. But cars on the track, that's a different story. Sewell's car back out, car 73. And we're watching our leaders. So tyre changes on the little Peugeot. Front tyres, obviously, that's the drive end of that car. And not taking any chances. Tension wrench after the drill or gun. There's another car off the track that looks like the Subaru again in dramas in the background of that shot, over towards, I think would be about turn 10, perhaps over at turn 5. There it is there. Yep, it's off the track at the moment, and it has been a day they probably rather forget. That's the Williams, Stoopman and Ross car. Looks like it's gone off somewhere between 4 and 5, and it's just making its way very slowly back to the pits. And as we speak, Butcher in car 59 has extended that margin. Andrew Butcher, of course, over car 5, Phil Showers, as the BMWs lead the way. Car 73 in 3rd position at the moment. That's the Anthony Sewell Glenn Townsend Lotus Aegis running in Class B. So we've got Class A cars running 1st and 2nd, B in 3rd, 4th and 5th. And our first Class C car at this stage is car number 8, which is Chris Coxhead and Thomas McCready, who we know that gained a lap almost out of that first safety car, and it's been quite strong ever since. We'll watch further action. Car 73, that's the Aussie Townsend car. Now with Hall, big hope. Not. That's Anthony Sewell, of course, in the Townsend car now. So he should be okay to go to the end of the race, and pulls up one more spot. Currently running good in order though.
Interesting
Third
race.
spot. So they're effectively the class leaders in B, and with their stop out of the way, this is probably good news for them, knowing that the cars in front of them still have a stop to go, and although he is 1 lap down on them at this stage, but with a 5-minute pit requirement, there's a good chance that they can go back to the lead. It's just who else is in the picture. Parry and Astakis back out on the track, and the gap between those two is they're on the same lap, but it's a fair bit of that lap that's the difference between them. Miller in 5th in the Evo, Burgess in 6th after their 2 stops, but again 2 laps behind our race leaders, who will effectively lose time 2 laps at least with their stops. So the Burgess are not out of this at this point, nor is this car that now will not have to stop again through the remainder of this race, and continues on very strongly at the moment. And as we said before, the fastest lap of the race so far was by Adam Burgess, the car that Craig Burgess now in. It was a blowout lap, so they got 2 strikes. They can't afford another one. They had one in qualifying and now have one in the race, so they'll be very mindful of where they are from this point onwards. That was very early in the race on lap 7. They copped that. This is the car we've seen on screen at the moment. Just in behind the McElroy Williams Falcon. Of course, Wayne Williams, track manager here at the circuit, just getting some race laps in, and allows the Burgess to go past. We're going back down to Lockie Mansell in pit lane.
Jordan, boys, an excellent first stint for you in the Motorsports Training Australia Ford Duke. Drove it from 16th off the grid up into the top 4, but now it's back in the garage. What's gone wrong?
Yeah, it was a great first stint. The car got tuned up a bit overnight and it was really, really good. But we've dropped a cylinder again, which is the same sort of happened in qualifying yesterday. So all the boys and girls here at the Motorsports Training Australia crew, they did a really good job to get it repaired, but unfortunately it hasn't held for the full race. But look, it's been a good learning experience for them, and great day overall, really. But you know, it's motorsport, isn't it?
Is that day done now for you guys?
I think so. Yeah, I can't see us getting it repaired. I think we'll load it back up onto the truck, and they've got an engine to rebuild now, I think.
That's a shame for your co-driver Chelsea Angelo, who was going to be competing in her first race since Homebush Dunlop Series last year. She now doesn't get a drive, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it's a real bummer, and you can tell she's pretty disappointed, so understandably so, but yeah, that's just motorsport. That's just what likes to kick you while you're down, but yeah, no, it's all good. Yeah, hopefully come back next year a little bit more reliable and a little bit quicker, and we'll give this thing a good crack.
Thanks, Jordan. Unlucky, mate.
No worries.
Yeah, bad luck for those guys. Thanks, Lockie. Another Class B car out of the event. We're just trying to see who we've really got in terms of numbers. We think there's about 21 going, and again, Lachlan has someone to talk to down pit lane.
Yeah, down here with Glenn Townsend, who's hopped out of the car after a pretty big first stint, handed over to Anthony Sewell. You guys have strategised your way into a really good position, but I know you won't want to speak too soon because you've been in similar positions here before.
That's it, Lockie. Nothing personal, but I don't want to jinx myself. Look, we've pulled it back from Division 1. We're stroking the car along. We've been here before with 8 laps to go and thrown away a very good position. So fingers crossed, the car is going really well. I'd like to compliment all the other drivers. It's really clean this year. So congratulations to everybody else. But fingers crossed for car 73.
All right, we wish you and Anthony all the best for the rest of the race. I think at the moment you're the best of the Division B cars that doesn't have to do any more stops, and I think you're just about a lap ahead of the Burgesses.
That is correct. We're sitting position 3 outright, first in class, so it's looking really good.
All right, fingers crossed for you for the rest of the race.
Sorry, I missed that one.
Fingers crossed for you for the rest of the race.
Thank you so much. Great.
Thanks, Lockie. We wish them all the best as well. You're right, they are currently in position 3. Their class rival, Parry Anastakis and Matt Julis, are also on the same lap. So that'll be the car that they'll be racing against. And the Jason Miller car is also on that same lap, as we see Phil Showers now bringing the number 5 BMW out of position 2 into the pits. This will be their second stop and the one that should take them to the end as well, but because it's a 5-minute regulatory stop, they will certainly drop a few places, at least 2 laps. As you can see, they're wheeling out the petrol drums for that one. There is the car currently running in P5, which will move to P4 and again on the lead lap, but look who's right behind him. It's Craig Burgess, also on that same lap, and there's a change of position, so Craig Burgess goes up to 5th and Miller now drops back to 6th position. So it's changing all the time, and just ahead of them looks to be car 73, but it is a lap in advance. So all that Craig Burgess will do is put himself back on the same lap as what they are, which should translate to the lead lap when Butcher pits, whenever that may be, and that could be now, it could be there down the line, and there goes an unlapping of car 73. Here's obviously there's been a little bit of touching and rubbing by the look of that indicator lamp hanging out of that number 5 BMW. Part and parcel of what goes on in car racing, especially on restarts where everyone's all locked up together. And Burgess a little bit squirrely coming out of going into turn 3, as he has to go offline to get past the number 73 Lotus on that occasion. We'll keep an eye on the Burgess times of 31.7, so he's lapping around about as near as he can without breaking out, and he can't afford another breakout. So fuel's finished for the BMW number 5, Phil Showers, Nathan Geyer, and Phil Showers departing the driver's seat for Nathan Geyer, who did the qualifying in this car to jump back in it to take in the rest of the race, because Phil Showers has been involved in Touring Car Masters in the past in a pretty rapid escort, and has done quite a bit of racing over the years. Craig Burgess continues on, now will effectively move to 4th position, this time past the pits. And just to give you an idea, so we've got car 59, which is Andrew Butcher at the wheel at the moment. He's completed 61 laps. Anthony Sewell, Harry Anastakis, Craig Burgess, Jason Miller are all on 59 laps, and we see the car in the pits, the Guy Showers car, now completed 58 laps, but with its second stop out of the way. So Burgess they've done their second stop, they're cleared to the finish, as is the Class B cars that are leading the way.
Yeah, basically, Gary, if we don't have any more safety cars, it's shaping up as probably the Saul Townsend car, the Anastakis Thewlis car, the Burgess car, and the Baskus Miller car. If we get one more safety car for Butcher and McBrien to make their second and final stop, that puts them in the game as well. So Burgess has just unlapped himself from Saul, so he's basically got 39 laps to make up a lap to try and get himself back to the front of this race. It's shaping up to be a pretty tense finish.
At this stage, you're right, Lockie, considering that once Butcher pits, then we have effectively 5 cars on the lead lap. So that gives you a fair idea of going into it. But you'd have to say then that the Burgess Ginetta would be in the box seat. The car we've got on screen at the moment, it has the pace that it can pick up anyone in 30 laps, you would think, if they hang out till lap 70 with the leader. And continues on its way. The only worry is that they do not break out. But on that last lap, it was a 1:38.03. Must have been held up by traffic, and it was actually slower than the cars in front of it, which are all on that lead lap. And we won't get a really effective idea of where they are in comparison to each other until the Butcher car stops. Once Andrew Butcher pulls in, which we would assume would be within the next 7 laps, then we'll have an idea just how far away all these cars are on each other. Now, Burgess about to put a lap on a car that was leading the race not that long ago. It just shows you how quickly things can change in this race. Meantime, both of them are trying to get past the Suzuki Swift, and the easiest way is just to split hairs and go down between the pair of them and get that spot away, which Craig Burgess does. So someone else has decided that they test out how much dust and whatever's off track here. And car 59, that was the race leader. So what's happened there is that Burgess has basically unlapped themselves off the race leader. And now are under 2 laps behind the leader, who has a pit stop to go. So whether there's a safety car or not, that won't be enough for them to hold on to the race lead. And they've only got 6 laps therefore to do that mandatory stop. And remembering too that the compulsory pit window finishes at lap 88. We're on lap 63 at the moment. Butcher continues to lead, 1 minute 37.99 seconds ahead of Sewell, who's leading the charge 1 lap down, basically ahead of Anastakis, Burgess, Miller, car 78, which is affecting the picture a little bit. That's Daniel Reynolds, Matt Stubbs, BMW M3. Been hanging around all day and still will effectively be on the lead lap once the leader is in pit lane. Go back and have a look down the order and see what everyone else is doing after we talk to Lockie in the pits.
Thanks, Gary. Down here with Michael Hall from the Hydro Wash Deck Speed Mazda MX-5. Michael, Daniel started the race, then you hopped in. You did both of your compulsory pit stops, but we saw that you just came back in for a 3rd stop. Is that so that Daniel could be in the car for the finish?
That's because our cool suit wasn't working. I was dehydrating. I had to get out of the car. Cool suits are a great idea when they work. They're like an extra jumper when they don't.
Pretty hot conditions out there to be driving around without a cool suit, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's like an extra jumper then. It's not fun.
Apart from that, how was the car and how was your stint?
I was disappointed, but I was going faster than last year, so that's good because of the rain last year, obviously. But I don't know, we're up in Division 1. We've never been there before, so, we'll see how we go.
Daniel was really quick in the first stint, so what are you expecting for him in this second stint?
We'll see how much heat he can put up with. I think he'll be fast until he melts. We'll wait and see, but we practiced in Queensland 2 weeks ago at the lakeside, so it was hot there too, so he might be used to the heat.
All right, all the best for you guys for the rest of the race.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Lockie. That team currently running in 9th position in Class A, overall, and in Class A would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the Class A cars, but with their stops out of the way. Yeah, don't envy not having a cool suit, not working on a day like today, quite warm out there. As we continue to monitor what happens here, we're on lap 65. We're expecting that Andrew Butcher will have to pit sometime between now and lap 70. There they are, race leaders in the BMW, the Absolute Foundation car, as it continues to move on. So quite a good lead at this stage, 1 minute 35.1 seconds. Almost a lap, you have to say, on their current speed. We'll be about a second off putting a lap on the second place car, which is that one there. Anthony Sewell and Glenn Townsend in the Lotus, and there they go. So this could be a telling point also. If they can put a lap on this car, it may help their cause, but their upcoming pit stop won't if it's under greens, and it probably, at a guess, won't help them a lot under safety car either. Safety car lap pit stop doesn't lose you as much time, but they haven't got a great enough advantage at the front to keep that lead. And there goes the lap put on Anthony Sewell, or attempted to, by going around the outside of a Lotus at turn 8. Managed to pull it off. So our race leader is effectively putting himself another lap in front of the field. With that, and coming up on the pair of them is Jason Miller in his Class B Evo, and then Butcher runs wide out of turn 10 and surrenders that back, so Sewell gets his lap back while holding off the Evo 9, who slips under him at turn 11. So will that be a change of position? We go back to Lockie down on pit lane.
Down here with Adam Burgess. Adam, long first stint for you. Interesting timing of those safety cars, and it's made you work pretty hard with your strategy today.
Yeah, look, everybody plays the safety car game, but it has made us have to claw back a little bit, but at the same time it's given us time to sit back and evaluate what we want to do. The strategy that we're on now, Dad's basically going to run to the end. We didn't plan on doing that initially, but yeah, look, we're just going with the race.
With the number of laps that there are left and the time that you have to make up to the cars that are leading, if there are no more safety cars, can you catch them by the end of the race?
Look, it's hard to say. There's a lot of variables that could come into play. If it's a smooth race, all on out now, and we can run to our division time, and everybody else obviously does their own. Look, I don't see why we can't, but we've still got 30 laps to go.
I think the other thing here is you've already recorded a couple of division strikes, so you cannot afford to break out again.
Yeah, I've been a bad boy. Slipped up a few times, but look, I was watching the dash. The dash let me down a couple of times, but look, that's racing. So Dad's just, like I said, out there now. He knows, obviously, that there are no more lifelines, so he's just going to get into a rhythm as he is and just drive and hope for the best.
Shaping up for a pretty interesting finish, that's for sure.
Yeah, look, if there's a couple of laps to go and we're all within a good pack, it will be good. Obviously, there's a couple of quick cars that'll probably be on the last few laps together, so it'll actually be a good little mind game because we're going to be balancing thresholds with breakout times. So, look, it will be good coming to the end up that main straight.
All right, fingers crossed for an exciting finish to the 2017 Joss Group Winton 300.
Well, just while we're there, we've got dramas for our leading Class B car. Anthony Sewell, Glenn Townsend Lotus, very slow down the back straight towards turn 10. Dramas, don't know what the problem is there, but very slow, limping around that pattern corner. Looks like they've done a reset, got him going again, but not what they wanted. And still going very slowly. White flags out in the background, as you can see. This is dramatic, sad that such a great effort can come to this because of mechanical woes. And just going back a bit on what Lockie said with Adam Burgess, I think they can win this race from here. When the leading car does, Andrew Butcher does pit, as we see Anthony Sewell heading to pit lane. So we might just get Lockie to keep an eye on that one. That's a dramatic development and effectively puts Parry Anastakis in second position and leading Class B. We're following this car into pit lane. Sewell in. Burgess will now move into position 3 for the race, second in Class A. And we're all just waiting for our leader to pit for this race to level out to see where we're at. But They're going to the rear hatch on this car to see where the drama is. And it looks fairly warm in there, but that's not unusual. And so something's not quite right there. Can't really see anything as being an issue. Yeah, he's got no idea. That's an indication. You throw your hands in the air, it's either in astonishment or you just don't know. And I suspect for Anthony Sewell, they don't know. The car's just obviously lost power and they've had to crawl back to the pits with it. What a shame. But in the meantime, great news for Perry Anastakis and Matt Julis. Second on the road and leading Class B, and ahead of Craig Burgess in a Janetta that Adam Burgess started out in. Jamie Miller up to 4th spot, and Reynolds into 5th in car 78. There's our race leader on screen. Must be very close to making that last stop for them, and tried to hold out as long as they could, but I suspect now they must not be far away from making their last stop. They can go through. We're going back to Lockie now in pit lane.
Yeah, here with a very disappointed Anthony Sewell. Anthony, you're in such a good position. What has put you out?
Something to do with the gearbox, I think. It just lost the clutch, making a terrible grinding sound, so I'm not sure.
Once again, another Winton 300 gets away from you, unfortunately.
Yeah, we had a good lead, I guess. You know, we knew Adam was in front, but I mean, for leading the B Class B, Division B, and we knew we had a pretty good go to get at least the podium or something. So, but yeah, it's a shame. It's a real shame.
Hard luck, mate.
Never mind. Next year.
That just shows you the disappointment with retiring from the Winton 300 while you're in such a good position.
Yeah, you just got to grin and bear it sometimes, haven't you? And it could be always out of your hands when it finally you cannot go any further. What a shame for them. Not the only story of woe today, as we continue to watch our race leader, and we're expecting that he should pit at any time to avoid going overtime on the drive at minimum time. And a Janetta off the road. So bit of a drama for Adam Burgess. Was travelling around the 134s, but looks okay. May have been just trying to get around traffic. There was a slower car up ahead of it, but doesn't seem to be any ongoing issue because of it. There's our car running second, Perry Anastakis at the wheel, and car that Matt Julis started out in, and it's always been up near the front. We sort of suspected yesterday that this car was in contention, but whether it can hold out the Janetta in the final laps, 30 laps to go, and it's on the same lap, you'd have to say probably not. The Evo 9 of Jason Miller in 3rd spot, as we said before, car 78, the Daniel Reynolds Matt Stubbs BMW in 4th spot, doing a great job. Those guys that you always see running at the front of Victorian Formula V races, making the transition to tin tops pretty successful, and they've done it for quite a while. Butcher now completes his 70th lap on 71, and already with a pit stop undertaken, but one more to go. These guys are cool to the end, and probably the bad news for them is that the Burgess car is cool to the end as well, even though their last lap was actually slower because it ran off the road at turn 10. And great long shot there down the long pit straight into the braking area. It's been a great performance from this little car to take on some of the more powerful and bigger cars. 19.3 seconds between second and third. That's the gap between our race leader, race second position in Anastakis and Craig Burgess in third. And that car will effectively be our last lap. There was 3.6 seconds between the pair of them, so that gap has come down a fair bit, and that gap will just disintegrate at a fairly rapid rate. Right, and of course it doesn't run off the road again. But I think these guys get a second outright in this car. That'll be an amazing effort for a Class B car, and for something that I don't think any of the form guides that, well, predominantly Lachlan Mansell would have come up with, would have figured to be a top runner prior to this event. Certainly from qualifying yesterday we did see that. It's a sad sight. See the guys looking in the engine bay of car 73. Anthony Sewell and Glenn Townsend. Very disappointing that their race ended with just 30 odd laps to go. Here we continue to see this great race. Oh, run off the road by Anastakis. Wasn't to be expected. Doesn't have too much of a drama. I think you may have just seen that car coming up behind him and got put off by that, but continues on. Car unaffected by the look of it. In second position, but what I would have done is given Craig Burgess a bit of a free kick into pulling more time out of the gap between second and third. As we continue to watch, and that was a car that probably might have just thrown him off a little bit. A car that's not without dramas itself during the course of this day. Pit lane shot for you, and there's our race leader into the pits. Andrew Butcher, Lachlan McBride. It'll take fuel. They'll do a driver change and give Lachlan McBride the run to the finish. They're using the cold blanket technique and the pulley system to fuel it, and they'll have a bit of time up their sleeve. We'll keep an eye on how far they drop down, but it will effectively give this car the race lead. It'll put it on the same lap this time past. And there we have it, they're both on the same lap, so when the Peugeot comes around next time, it'll be the race leader, providing this car doesn't get past it, of course, which is currently in second position, only looks like around 3.9 seconds behind the race second place car. So that's a great fight back there. You can see the red Peugeot in the background of this next shot, and Janetta looming up on it, and this will be for the race lead the next time they cross the line. We've got Lockie back with us after having a stint down in the pits, the longest stint of anyone there, I guess, apart from the cars that are out of the race.
Oh, it's hot down there as well. I'll tell you what, black as a colour for a race suit is practical in terms of being able to keep it clean. However,
you have to go back to your pink one.
Yeah, and it's sort of so much heat. Maybe I do need to get Lauren Gray to lend me her bright pink one again. But you have to say that the Burgesses, the early safety cars really didn't work for them. They've still managed to fight back into a position where they can win this race. And this is really not working for Andrew Butcher and Lachlan McBride. The fact that they're having to do the second of their compulsory pit stops under green flag conditions. Still a long way to go in this race, 29 laps remaining. The other thing to think about here is the race record. So we've completed 2 hours and 8 minutes. The race record currently stands at 2 hours and 50 minutes. So basically we've got 42 minutes left to complete the rest of the race. We've had 3 safety car interruptions so far, which is a bit below average actually.
So if we don't have another safety car, we'll have a race record.
We're on for a race record, exactly right. Burgesses cannot afford to break out again. They've already had their 2 strikes.
Here's our battle for the race lead now, with Parry Anastakis leading Craig Burgess. The gap half a second, and as you can see, it could change any moment. Superior performance of that Class A Janetta over the Class B Peugeot. But as you said when you spoke to Parry earlier in the day, he'd kicked 2 of his bucket lists, and on track to get the 3 ticked off.
Here comes Burgess out of turn 9. The straight line performance of the Ginetta sees it blast past the Peugeot on the run down into turn 10. And in the end, it's a fairly easy change for the lead there. So the Ginetta, which led the early laps of this race, lap 1 through until it came in under safety car fairly early on in the race, has taken until now to fight its way back to the lead with 27 laps remaining in the Joss Group Winton 300. Anastakis and Thulis. Second place outright would still be an excellent result for that car. You have to feel for Glenn Townsend and Anthony Sewell, because they were, with the margin that they had over the Burgesses, it would have been, okay, the Burgesses might have caught them, but gee, it would have been close.
Yeah, I sort of thought that the way it panned out, as soon as Andrew Butcher pitted, that the Burgess were in the box seat. They had, because of the way the cars were all on the same lap, and with 30 odd laps to go, you'd think even with almost a lap deficit, they were going to make it up. If they had to 3 seconds a lap, they could have done it in, or 2 seconds a lap possibly. It means nothing now. They've just got to get to the finish, and at this stage they've opened up a 1 second lead. It's a bit more than that, but
yeah. And at this stage, the top 4 cars all on the lead lap.
And then we have 2 1 lap. No, it's a few 1 lap down. 1, 2, 3 cars 1 lap down.
4 cars, in fact, that are right down.
Yep.
Reynolds, Rob Hay, Daniel Deckers, Nathan Gear and Andrew Butcher all 1 lap down. Andrew Butcher, it's Lachlan Bryan, who's now returned to the driver's seat of the number 59 BMW for the run home.
The car that's snuck up on us too is Class C Ford Falcon GT of Wayne Williams and John McElroy. Up to 12th spot. They're only second in Class C, but they're the lead car, the McCready Coxhead cars, ahead of them by about a lap and a bit. But that's been a pretty interesting come from nowhere drive for those guys to be 12th.
And also Michael Hopp and Peter Sortwell in the Suzuki Swift, leading Class E car, currently runs in position 14. That's been a very good performance from them to work their way up to P14 outright as well. Rob Hay and Nick Cansian back in the pits too, out of position number 5.
Well, that would be an unscheduled stop, I would imagine.
Yeah, the bonnet's going up on that car. Also, Rob Hay is going to get out, so Nick Cansian will get back into that car to drive it home. With the way that the safety cars have fallen, and the fact that teams want their faster driver on board for the final stint, or the fact that the minimum and maximum number of laps for each driver hasn't quite matched up with when safety cars have fallen, it's forced some teams into doing third stops in terms of the Division A cars.
Good to see that the Class D Commodore, Richard Luff at the wheel at the moment, has been going okay. It had a couple of glitches. It stopped at the end of pit lane early on and then had another moment down at turn 7, but apart from that, it's been going fairly well faultless through the remainder. Currently running in 19th position. And the Best family, after their early dramas with vibration and having a garage car to check and see where the problem may lay, they're now currently running in 18th. Just seeing if the what's-name car got back out there, the Stoopman Subaru. No, they called it quits. They've had dramas from the opening lap, really. Damage to that car, and unfortunately no longer running. Probably on their way back to Melbourne now, I'd imagine.
Yep, so retirements from this race. Jordan Boys and Chelsea Angelo, we know that they're out after their car dropped onto 7 cylinders. Kevin Stoopman, Gavin Ross and Andrew Williams, they're out as well. Gavin Holland and Sage Murdoch, we saw the rear wheel part company with the CGR Performance Mitsubishi Evo. Steve and Jake Shelley, the curse of pole struck again for Deputy.com.
That was your curse.
Blown engine for that car, and they were out on at lap number 20. Ian McDougall and Barney Hogan, it looks like they finally called it quits as well. Ben Johnson and Shane Tanner were out, as were Scott McGuinness and Trevor McGuinness, without completing a single lap.
Yeah, that's what, I don't know if that's the hardest or the easiest. Not getting a lap in or going out very early or going out very late. I imagine going out very late would be harder to take than going out early. You can accept a early departure, but not a late one.
Yeah, especially when you're in a good position as well.
Here's the Bacchus Miller car still circulating. They've done a good job. They look like they didn't have pace early, but they're currently running in position 3. That's been a solid effort. We've seen them get passed by quite a few cars early in the race, but then they've soldiered on and done a pretty good job of it to be in 3rd spot. So we've got Class A car leading the race, Class B cars are 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and then we've got A class cars 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, B class car in 9th, and an A class car, the Spiteri car in 10th spot. And I don't know if you're aware, but they came in for their second stop. They had an exhaust falling off it at that point, so that cost them a bit. Again, they were in a similar situation to the Burgess and Shelleys in taking that early option. That didn't quite figure out for them as well as it did for say, the Burgess car, which now has a 13.8 second lead as they complete 76 laps, 3/4 of the way through this race.
Some of the fastest cars on the racetrack at the moment are actually a bit further back. Daniel Decker's in position 5 has just punched out a minute 32.4. I think it was actually the fastest driver on the racetrack last time through, and Nathan Gear at 33.6 doing pretty quick laps at this stage as well. So Daniel Deckers, I don't think he can fight his way back onto the lead lap. He's about a lap and a half down at the moment, but he's definitely a chance if he can maintain that sort of pace and picking up a couple of spots and maybe contending for an outright podium by the time we get to the end of this race.
Yeah, well, he's got B class cars in front of him, so that's quite possible. He's pretty sure he won't get to the Burgess car unless it has a drama of some sort. And continuing back to our Class C competitors in the 11th and 12th. I think it's standing to be that far up. And car 45, which is leading Class D, is running 13th. That's an amazing effort.
Yeah, that's the BMW E30 of Jesse Bryan and Jamie Lovett. First race meeting for those guys. That's a very, very strong performance for them.
Make you want to come back.
Sure, we'll see more of them.
And then we've got the Suzuki in 14th spot, which we were speaking about not long ago. Probably though, what's not good news for them is that they've got some cars on the same lap.
On screen at the moment, Daniel Reynolds and Matt Stubbs' car, which is the last car on the lead lap at the moment, in position 4. The record for the most finishes on the lead lap in the Winton 300 is 3, which we've achieved 3 times in 2013, 2014 and 2015. So if the Reynolds car can stay on the lead lap all the way through to the end, we would break that record. However, it is being caught pretty quickly by the Burgesses at the moment.
Yeah, they are actually, not far behind.
It's not unheard of for cars to have mechanical problems late in this race either, Gary. 2014, David Radatz and Shane Otten, their Mazda MX-5 started blowing smoke with just a dozen laps to go. Not that we wish bad luck upon anyone, but still 22 laps to go. Still a lot of time for more and more drama to unfold. I just keep thinking back to the crazy finish to the 2014 race. It felt a bit like it does at the moment, where everything had just sort of settled down. You felt you knew how it was all going to play out. And then we had 10 laps at the end that could only be described as pandemonium.
Yeah, so we're waiting for that word to come along, and it has. Well done, Lockie. Yes, I remember, I think I was watching it on the live stream as well back then, and it certainly did have its moments. Commentators got fairly wild about it.
Yeah, myself and Zach Caven were commentating that day. That was, definitely the best finish that we've had to the Winton 300. On screen at the moment, Daniel Deckers, who continues to punch out the minute 32s, currently the fastest driver on the racetrack. That car's sporting a bit of front end damage, so it's obviously been in the back of somebody else at some point during this race, but doesn't appear to be affecting the performance too much at the moment. Craig Burgess, you can tell that he's just managing the gap. It's 18.4 seconds lead that he has over Perry Anastakis. Closest finish that we had in the Winton 300 was last year, but the race finished under safety car, so that gave us a bit of an artificially close finish. The closest green flag finish that we've had was 2013, and it was about 11 seconds from Nick Hansian back to Chad Cotton at the checkered flag.
The battle for Class B honours, although Perry Anastakis leads at the moment, the gap he has over Jason Miller is 34.3 seconds, and we've got 20 laps to go, and at the moment, or on the last lap at least, he was well over 2 seconds faster. So we'll keep an eye on that one. That could come down to the line. At 2 seconds a lap, there's 40 seconds, and that's more than enough to get him to second position overall, and that would be a amazing finish for them as well. Now with Reynolds, the next one in line, he's fast. He's not as fast as Miller, but he's faster than Anastakis, so we'll keep an eye on that one. And as you mentioned before, certainly Daniel Decker's the 1:32.59 is faster than those three cars in front of him, but he also is a lap behind them.
Nathan Gee going with him as well, 4.4 seconds separating 5th place Deckers from 6th place Nathan Gee. Lachlan McBrien, the other car that's on that same lap, in position number 7. Then it's Nick Cansey and Daniel Gillison, Thomas McCready rounding out the top 10. Daniel Gillison and Lacey Montgomery have stayed under the radar today as well, haven't they? And they've crept their way up into the top 10.
Yeah, I noticed that one of the XLs out there too, car 86, in 15th position, has done a reasonably good job too. Nathan Bell and Daniel Reinhardt. Reinhardt I know from Formula V.
And here we go, so Reynolds and Stubbs fighting here to try and stay on the lead lap compared to Craig Burgess, but that might be a task that's just a little bit too hard to achieve. Burgess does the switchback, cheeky move up the inside at turn number 9, and Reynolds goes a lap down.
Yeah, whether he tried to get out of the way and then realised that the Janetta was on the outside of him rather than the inside, I don't know, but I don't think he put up much resistance. I don't think he could. Just one of those situations where he got caught out at the wrong place at the wrong time. But there is our race leader now safely in the lead at a 27.6 second margin, which will probably go out further on this lap. It just seems nothing that can really stop him at this point, as he puts another lap on car 13 there as well. The Daniel Gilson, Lisa Montgomery machine. And Anastakis, his last lap was a 38.09. Be interested to see what he does this time round, because those times have fallen away a bit, and that's to do with the heat and the wear of the tyres and all the rest of it. And whether Miller can continue. He did 37.0. We'll keep an eye on that gap, because that's important now. Miller would have to do at least 1.5, if not faster, times than what this car is doing to get in the hunt for a second outright.
Going to be close run things to see if we get to the race record. If we have any more safety cars, I'd say that we definitely won't be breaking the race record. If it goes green for the rest of the race, there's a slight chance that we might break it, which would be amazing considering that we've had 3 safety car interventions this year.
Yeah, Miller's again gone faster, and 1.5 seconds faster on that lap, and the gap now is 33.1 seconds, so it has come down. So that is the race at the moment for second and third outright, as well as the win in Division B.
Yep, agreed.
And this is the car that's making the inroads. Again, a quick look at some of the stats from the race that you put together, Lockie.
This is a bit of an update, actually. So, once again, big thanks to our stats guru, Shane Rogers. So Class B cars in contention. The pole position car has never won. That trend continues in 2017. 10 retirements so far out of the 27 cars. So that's actually a bit above the average attrition rate for this race. 3 safety cars, 3 teams on warnings. The Burgesses, we know, have got no warnings left. And in terms of pit strategy, the Burgesses managed to overcome an early disadvantage. They lost a lot of track position with that first pit stop that they made under the first safety car intervention, but they managed to get that back through sheer pace more than anything.
And we know that the Andrew Butcher, Lachlan McBride car really lost
We've
out.
got the Burgess car off the road at turn 9. Now, is that just a mistake, or has they got a problem? No, the Burgess car,
Puncher.
It gets back on.
So,
That's heading to the right-hand side of the circuit.
no, looks all right.
Oh, wow. That would have been a heart-in-mouth moment for everyone down at the BPG team then. The Craig and Adam Burgess car off the circuit in the dust at turn number 9. And he's able to continue on without coming into
That's
the
his
pits.
second off since he's been in the
Wow.
car as well, so they're doing their best to make this as exciting as possible for us sitting here. And that lap was a 1:42.82, so about 10 seconds he lost because of going off the track, but it hasn't cost him the lead. There was a 33.9 second lead. Obviously it's come down probably about 23 seconds or thereabouts, but yeah, continues on. Luckily nothing more than just an off-track excursion out of turn 9, and we'll keep an eye still on this race for second and third, and the Starkers, 26.4 seconds. So did lose a bit of that leading gap, not that it's really important, and a 35.44 from Anastakis. That's more like the pace they should be doing. How has Miller responded? Can he get into a 34 and continue this drive towards the front of the field? We'll wait and see. We did say it was 33 and some tenths of a second. Now it's come through in 35.7. So in actual fact, Anastakis went quicker on that lap, and the gap is now 32.1 seconds. So it's not all over as yet, and anything can and sometimes does happen.
That would have been a nervous moment for the team there at Advan Performance, seeing that Ginetta running off at turn 9. Just goes to show that it's never over until it's over. Interesting that Craig made a mistake there. Just having a look as well, the Nick Cansian and Rob Hayne Mazda MX-5 car entry is back in the pits and has been for almost 5 minutes. So further problems, I would suggest, for car number 6, and that now slips all the way back to 12th position.
Well, they did have the bonnet up the last time it came in, so one suggests that there may have been issues they thought they could get around that haven't been able to. So Class B second place car, the Evo, going past the second place Class C car in the Falcon.
And that Falcon of Wayne Williams and John McElroy is up into the top 10 outright.
Just behind the Coxhead McCready class leader there, although there's a lap between them as well. And we know that lap came very early on with the first safety car. They gained that lap advantage by not being lapped while the rest of the class had been, and they've maintained that advantage for the rest of the race. You can actually, in their lap times, have been fairly similar through the course of the day. The fastest lap from both was actually in favour of McCready and Coxhead, but still a good effort.
Yeah, they've ended up almost 2 laps ahead of Williams and McElroy.
Yeah,
largely by virtue of that.
they have
safety car.
extended
Yep.
the gap between them and the second place car in the job. Dramas here for car 15, the Commodore.
So that's the
And that could be oil or a power steering hose, one of the two. Maybe power steering by the look of the colour, although you can see it coming out underneath. It doesn't seem to be coming from the engine. It doesn't look quite dark enough to be engine oil, but what it will do will mean a pit stop because it won't be allowed to continue doing that.
No, and you wouldn't want to be following that car particularly closely at the moment, that's for sure. So it will be pit bound at the end of this lap, no question about that.
That's Capillari at the wheel at the moment.
And that car's currently scored in 20th position. That car's been in and out of the pits all day. We saw it in earlier with the fuel pump problem.
And it doesn't seem to have been any oil out on the track where our front running car has come through. There's our Class C leading car coming through as well, currently placed 9th, and the race is certainly not over yet, so it could even advance further on the 86th of 100, and race which has gone over a race time of 2 hours and 30 minutes, say, for the sake of an argument.
Daniel Deckers continues to absolutely fly in car number 75, the Hydro Wash Deck Speed Mazda MX-5. If he continues at the sort of pace that he's doing at the moment, he's every chance at getting that car onto the outright podium. He's rapidly catching Reynolds and Stubbs, and he's not an insurmountable amount of time behind Jason Miller and Richard Vasquez. So watch out for car number 75.
Yeah, I was wondering, 1.2 laps away from the lead of the race, but when you look where Miller is 1 minute and 3 seconds off the race lead, so will you do some sums here? Yeah, every chance it could get to third.
Here's a summary of our class leaders. Leader of Division A, first outright, Adam and Craig Burgess. The leader of Division B, sitting in second position outright, Harry Anastakis and Matt Thulis. Leader of Division C, 9th position outright at the moment for Thomas McCready and Chris Coxhead. Leader of Division D, at this stage, Jesse Bryan, the BMW E30, sitting in position 11 outright. Leader of Division E, Michael Hopp, who's on screen at the moment, the Suzuki Swift that he's sharing with Peter Sortwell, sitting in 14th position in terms of the overall placings.
Yeah, the little Suzuki caused a few dramas down at Phillip Island at the last round of the Australian Production Car Series. Went into a tyre barrier at turn 2. It took more time to repair the tyre barrier than actually did repair the car, and it was able to get back out and keep running. And unusual situation of seeing all the cars lined up on pit straight while they temporarily stopped the race to effect the repairs to the tyre barrier.
There's on screen at the moment Jesse Bryan and Jamie Lovett, the BMW E30. First race for those guys, and they have done a sterling job. They're just outside the top 10 outright aboard that BMW E30, same spec as the cars that we see competing in the BMW Drivers' Cup.
That was the next question I was going to ask, actually. And lapping quicker than some of the cars in the quicker classes too. So just passing the Class C car there of Wayne Williams, and see what their last lap time was. Someone else.
That was a change of position. So Jesse Bryan actually just overtook Wayne Williams, and that was for a spot in the top 10. And yes, so that BMW E30 now moves into the top 10 outright. There's an interesting stat about the BMW E30s that every time we've had a BMW E30 start the Winton 300, it's always come home in the top 10 outright. Just an amazing finishing record that those cars have, and an ability to work their way towards the front of the field through pure reliability and consistency, if not necessarily outright speed.
Well, that consistency does rule the roost, doesn't it? And how you're going, and we've seen Craig Burgess have the odd problem but still maintain the lead. Here he comes up on the back of these two cars. We'll certainly put a lap on them very shortly, and goes through turn 3. Currently on lap 89 of this race. It's been an interesting race. It's had its moments. The strategy has well come into play. Safety cars have played their little part in it as well. Half affected some cars and haven't affected others.
So on screen at the moment, Daniel Deckers sitting in position number 5, lapping more than 3 seconds quicker than the 2 cars ahead at the moment. So he's making up time on Reynolds and Stubbs. Every chance of catching them before the end of the race. Not sure that he'll quite get to the back of the Miller and Vasquez car, which is a bit further up the road. But certainly looking good for 4th position. If Michael Hall comes 4th again, I think he'll just about go insane. He's come 4th more times, I reckon, than any other driver in the Winton and the Wakefield 300s without being on the podium. 4th here a couple of times in a row. 4th at the Wakefield 300 earlier this year as well, with Jason Miller, and looking at potentially yet another 4th place finish.
Deckers actually did his fastest lap on lap 84, so that's not that long ago, and he's still circulating around about the same pace.
Here he comes up behind Daniel Reynolds now. Keep in mind that Daniel Reynolds is a Division B car and has only had the 1 compulsory pit stop, but can not go any faster than a 34. Daniel Deckers is in a Division A car, so can go faster, but has done an extra pit stop.
We'll just get a single out to Deckers, 10 laps to go, and we're not sure if it went out to Deckers or it went out to Reynolds there to settle down a bit.
Look at that though, Reynolds didn't even fight the position. In fact, he even put his indicator on to let Deckers know to go through on the right hand side. So Daniel Deckers moves up into position 4.
Well, that's been the way of the BMW drivers all day, with Stubbs and Reynolds in that car. They've just they haven't fought off anyone for a position, allowed them to go through and then just follow them around for a couple of laps. And again, it's this consistency that seems to be the way to go, because it's, look where they're sitting, they're 5th in the race and 3rd of the Class B cars.
Here's our outright race leading car coming into the final 10 laps of the Joss Group Winton 300 for 2017. What a classy performance it's been for Adam and Craig Burgess. They've had to drive that car without going underneath the minimum lap time. They've had to make up a lot of time on cars that have been in the pits for 5 fewer minutes, and yet when it counts they've still risen to the pointy end of the field. What a performance.
Yeah, despite a couple of little off-track excursions as well. Certainly doing the job at the moment. Their lead 44.13 seconds over Parry Anastakis and the little Peugeot, with Jason Miller in 3rd spot. The gap between 2nd and 3rd, we'll give an update on that, because it was coming down, and then on 1 lap Anastakis did enough to get back out there. He did a 36.7 on that lap, and Miller should be somewhere in the region of 20, guess probably 23 or 24 seconds further adrift. And mindful that Deckers will be the car that's closing in on him, but he'll complete that lap, and he's got a fair margin over Deckers, so just depends on these last 10 laps, 9 laps. And Miller goes through in a 35.6, so he's only 1/10 faster on that lap. 27.5 seconds, the gap between 2nd and 3rd. And we've just been shown another gap that isn't big. That's between car 78 and car 5, I think we'll find.
Yeah, Daniel Reynolds and Nathan Gear. So that's the battle for positions 5 and 6. So Nathan Gear was 3.1 seconds quicker than Daniel Reynolds last time through. So that'll become a pretty hot contest in the closing stages of this race as well.
McBride in car 59. Again, they were probably more affected by their pit strategy than anyone. Certainly dropped them from the lead well down. And Gilson in 8th spot, McCready in 9th, and not likely to catch that Class B car. But Brian is actually lapping about the same speed as McCready, but there is 2 laps between them.
Yep. So there we go, 5.5 seconds from Daniel Reynolds back to Nathan Gear. On those numbers, Gear will catch Reynolds before we get to the end of this race. We're just going to miss out on the race record, I reckon. We'll fall about 2 minutes short of having a race record time. Jason Miller punches out that car's fastest lap of the race on lap number 91, third placed Mitsubishi Evo.
Maybe they can see the carrot out there, and maybe they think they can run down that Peugeot. The gap will be the significant part of that, whether they can do it or not. And
we've got the best car off the road.
So if this brings out a safety car, this certainly puts the Class B cars in jeopardy of maintaining their positions, doesn't it?
To some extent it does, but the thing is that there's only 3 cars on the lead lap, so Daniel Deckers, for example, doesn't really get any advantage at all because he doesn't get to catch up to the cars ahead of him.
But it's, well, they're all on lap 92 at the moment. They're all on their lap 92. Completed lap 92, so Anastakis and Miller, that gap will come down to nothing. Deckers will close right up on it as well, and then you've got Gear coming on the back of Reynolds, so there could be quite a few positional changes in the last dash if we get a safety car. We haven't got one yet, so let's not count it. Although that, I don't know, if it pulled to the other side of the tyre barrier, it would have been okay.
Last time we had a safety car this close to the end was 2014. On that occasion, we had a change for the outright race lead on the very last lap. 2013, we had a lead change in the final 5 laps as well, so not unknown for it to happen, but it might be because we are so close to the end that they might just leave that car there under local yellows for the end of the race, and that'll be a no passing zone through to the end.
Actually, where that flag point is, they still had the green light going, so maybe they just had the yellow out for a lap to let everyone know that it was there.
And 5th position's changed as well. Nathan Gear has relieved Daniel Reynolds of P5 in car number 5.
Miller continues to negate that gap to Anastakis as well, which is interesting. 38.75 for Anastakis on that last lap. Still waiting for Miller to come across the line.
The other interesting thing here, the speed that Daniel Deckers has gone on board, not only is he catching up to Jason Miller, but he's also catching the Ginetta. So Daniel Deckers has a chance of unlapping himself from Burgess before we get to the end of this race.
That's interesting. So there's just 3 cars on the lead lap now, according to the timing. That's Burgess, Anastakis and Miller. And then we go back to a lap behind, being Deckers, Gear, Reynolds, McBride, and then a 2-lap margin back to Gilson, further lap to McCready, and then 3 cars on 87 completed laps. That's Bryan, Spiteri and Williams in the Falcon in 12.
So 6 laps to go as Burgess comes through to complete another lap. And this is the stage of the race where you start to hear all the different noises, don't you, in the car. So close to the home. 55.6 seconds his lead over Anastakis, so they can really afford just to back off and cruise home. He does not need to take any risks whatsoever.
There's about 21.5 seconds back to Miller in 3rd. So that gap has really come down in the last few laps.
Here's our Class C leader, Thomas McCready. Him and Chris Coxhead.
They've done a pretty good job in that to get that advantage early. A bit fortuitous maybe, but certainly a come on strong in the second half of this race.
Second place for Perry Anastakis and Matt Thewlis. That really is a giant killing performance for those guys.
Well, we're hearing that the best car has run out of fuel.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately. So that's why it's parked where it is, so they can't go any further now at all. I don't think you could turn it on the starter motor for a full lap, could you? Courtesy of Michael Gray, who passed that message through. Of course, Alexander Best, Michael Gray have been running a Toyota in Class D of the Australian Production Car Series. It heads to its final round next weekend at Wakefield Park, that other venue that you haunt so much, Lockie.
Yeah, and I will be there next weekend as well. As we see that the Spiteri Evo, which is a bit further back after a couple of unscheduled pit stops, has just worked its way up into the top 10, relieving Jesse Bryan and Jamie Lovett of 10th position.
Currently on lap 96, there'll be 4 to go at the end of this one.
I'll just miss out on the race record. I'll tell you what, if we'd had one fuel safety car,
or one lap less under safety car,
we would have been definitely in
what
race
is the
territory.
what is the race record? 2 hours.
2 hours 50 minutes.
Yep. Craig Burgess continues to lead the way, 59.96 seconds in front now. Anastakis in second, Miller in third. That gap now is 20.7 seconds, so it's come down a little bit further to Miller, and then of course we've got the lap back to Deckers, Gear, Reynolds, and a stop for McBrien.
Oh yeah, out of position 7.
There it is now. Well, unfortunately they got caught out by the safety by pitting under greens. That cost them time. Must be a puncher maybe, putting a jack under the left hand side of that car and a tyre coming out, so a late puncher for that car.
Now that we're getting very close to home, a few key stats to run through, Gary. So if the Burgesses win, they'll become the second team to win both the Wakefield 300 and the Winton 300 in the same year. The last team to do it, Steve and Jake Shelley in 2015. Will also become the first 6-cylinder car to win the Winton 300.
Well, there you go.
Every Winton 300 up till now has been won by a 4-cylinder car.
We'll try and get a V8 up there next year, eh?
Here's our second place car, Perry Anastakis and Matt Thewlis. If they can hold on to this second position for the final 4 laps, finish second outright, I'd be very surprised if we don't see some raw emotion from Anastakis on the podium, because he is a driver who puts his heart and soul into these 300 kilometre races. He lives and breathes them.
You said he's been a long time supporter. The gap is now just 20 seconds. So it's come down a little bit further, but it shouldn't affect. With just 3 laps to go, you think they'll be home and hosed by now, given that they'll finish on the lead lap. 3 cars on the lead lap, that equals the best performance in the past. But you can't really take it away from the Burgess father and son duo, can you? They've done a pretty good job in tricky conditions, given the speed of that car and maintaining that they don't break out more times than they should. They broke out twice, and the third one would have cost them the race.
Yeah, and Craig Burgess is driving sensibly at this point, just cruising around at a pace that's not going to put any stress on the car, not going to risk any damage or any mistakes, because he knows that he's got more than 60 seconds to the next car behind. So we've actually we're going to end up with 10 retirements from this race.
That's a record.
17 finishes, so the attrition rate's been high, which I think, given the hot weather conditions, the long green running that we've had between safety cars, it really has tested a lot of the mechanical components in what are in a lot of cases, largely production-based cars to the absolute limit of their endurance.
And the only issue that he may have is lap traffic, obviously, for Craig Burgess as he starts his penultimate lap in this, what has been a fairly entertaining and enthralling race. It's been a race of strategy. Not the time to go for a bit of a squiggle down at turn 3, is it?
It hasn't quite thrown up the blockbuster finish that we've had here at the Winton 300 in a couple of times that it was run, but in the middle stage of the race, certainly plenty of intrigue, interesting strategies unfolding, tales of woe for some of the teams that retired with mechanical problems. The Lotuses proves vulnerable today, both the Lotuses in the race retiring, one with an engine failure, one with a gearbox problem.
There are our official margins at the moment, 1 minute 5.4 seconds, and then Miller behind his Class B rival in Anastakis. The gap there is less than 18 seconds, so you can see it's 17.8 to be precise. So the gap has been coming down, but it's a managed gap, and that's the important part. And as you said, for Perry Anastakis, who's been a long time supporter of this event, this is a culmination that you would really say I've actually done my best job ever. And they said they qualified in the top 10. They've been competitive. They wanted to win the class, and a podium would have been a bonus. They got all 3.
Yeah, that's an excellent performance for them. 1 lap to go in the 2017 Joss Group Winton 300. And in the week leading up to this race, I wrote an article about the storylines that this race has always thrown up every year since its resurrection in 2011. We've had some classy performances, we've had some blockbuster finishes, we've had some weather-affected races, heartbreaking retirements, tales of elation, tales of woe, everything in between. This weekend, no question that it hasn't been without a bit of controversy, especially with the division situation, but one team, despite some of the challenges that they faced, has risen above all of the hurdles that has been presented to them. It's been a classy performance from Craig and Adam Burgess, the father and son team, in their Ginetta G50.
The good news is McBrien's able to get back out and hasn't lost position, but has dropped a lap. So that's good news for them. Still ahead of Gilson, McCready, Spiteri in 10th spot now.
2 corners left to go. Here come our winners. Race record doesn't quite get broken this year, but for the second time ever, it's going to be a team winning both of the endurance races for the Benalla Auto Club. Craig and Adam Burgess, they have done the double in the Ginetta G50. They take the race victory after 2 hours, 52 minutes and 7 seconds. And in the end, a big margin back to second place, and it'll be well over 75 seconds. But what a performance, giant killing performance for this car. Qualified in the top 10 outright, sensible, consistent driving from both its pilots all day. It was a contender in the B-main a couple of years ago. That just shows you the improvements in performance that they've made to it since then. They are going to finish outright runner-up in 2017. What a performance.
And on the lead lap.
Yeah, what an awesome performance for Perry Anastakis and Matt Thulis. They will be elated.
Goes down through turn 10 for last time. And I guess it'd probably be worse for Parry if he wasn't in the car, but the fact that it's his car and he's in it is probably the great point about this.
He gets to be in the car to greet the checkered flag. They made the decision to start Matt Thulis in the car. That was a late change. Perry Anastakis in his own car gets to drive that car across the line in P2. Great job, guys. Of true grassroots motorsport competitors, and coming home in third after starting the race 14th on the grid in a car that they only drove at Wakefield Park last week for the first time. Get that car onto the podium. Jason Miller and Richard Vasquez finished third outright. But there are our winners. Craig and Adam Burgess, first win for them in the Winton 300. but they go back to back with the Wakefield 300, which they won earlier in the year. Anastakis Miller, then Daniel Deckers and Michael Hall in 4th position, Nathan Geyer and Phil Showers in for position 5, Daniel Reynolds and Matt Stubbs 6th, Lachlan McBrien and Andrew Butcher in 7th, Daniel Gillison and Elisa Montgomery in 8th position, Thomas McCready and Chris Coxhead in 9th, and Trevin and John Spiteri rounding out the top 10. In terms of our division winners, Craig and Adam Burgess win Division A, Parry Anastakis and Matt Thewlis win Division B, the Division C win goes to Thomas McCready and Chris Coxhead, the Division D win to Jesse Bryan and Jamie Lovett, and Division E to Michael Hopp and Peter Sortwell.
Brilliant race, great strategies, 16 finishes out of our 26 starters, and some interesting stories to go around tonight, but certainly very happy winning duo there with Adam Burgess congratulating his dad, still getting out of the car of course. And a bit giddy on it, yeah, he'd been sitting down for a while in one of those. And some of the other teams coming over to congratulate him as well. All good stuff.
And there's the Shelleys down there as well, congratulating them, which is great to see as well. They are good mates off the track, and even though the Shelleys race ended in disappointment, I'll still be very happy to see the Burgesses crossing the line in first place. It's been a bit of a rivalry that's been built up between those guys over the 300k Enduros. Great scenes.
Great campaign. Well done, Craig. Congratulations, mate. Good job, mate. Well done.
Okay, there we have the Josh Group Winton 300 podium presentation coming up shortly, but from us here, Lachlan Mansell and Gary O'Brien and all the crew here at Blendline TV, we're going to say farewell from Winton Raceway.